CyberSecurity Awareness. What you will learn in this course. What is information and cybersecurity? Differences between cyber network and other parts of security areas. Discover what security awareness really is and why it's needed for all. This will help make all of your online operations more successful and reliable. Cyber attacks. Different types of attacks and how to recognize them and avoid them. Cyber scams. Learn how to recognize and be more confident to mitigate them. Learn how to stay safe online. Learn how to securely configure your browser to block malicious scripts, cookies, trackers, etc. on the most used browsers, Chrome, Mozilla Safari, and also other alternatives. You will confidently manage your emails, business files, computers, mobile devices, and Internet browsing. Discover what data privacy is and how to protect your privacy online communications. Spot the differences between a real email and a scam email. What is the role of personnel and employees in the security world, and why personal security education is a must? Learn details about how most common and successful attacks are planned, organized, and performed, and how to be protected from them. Ransomware, phishing, botnets, DDoS, social engineering, spyware, brute force, and more. Learn more about cloud security. Understand how to protect your mobile devices against cyber threats. Bonus: learn how to plan, create, and maintain your own personal security environment with real configuration examples. This course is separated into two main modules. First part is a mandatory training for employees, with all relevant information that everyone needs to know regarding security and cybersecurity safety, no matter what their technical background might be, how to act and be prepared for modern threats in work and personal life, to more complicated topics with live examples. The second part is intermediate module, including in-depth details on how to learn new ways of protection and to enhance your knowledge in cybersecurity areas with all of its aspects. Different types of attacks, how they are built, organized, and executed, and what needs to be done in a case of a security breach. This module covers the newest and most important topics like mobile and cloud security, safety browsing, the important role of the employees, personal security, with examples and much more. Course modules, mandatory training for employees. What is information and cybersecurity and why it's needed? Email scams, phishing. Password security, security and authentication. Removable media. Clean desk policy. Data management and privacy. Remote work security awareness. Physical security and environmental controls. Social working dangers. Secure mobile devices. Safe web browsing. Security training essentials overview. Intermediate module includes in-depth details on how to learn new ways of protections and enhance your knowledge in cybersecurity area in all of its aspects. Cyber attacks, different types of attacks and how to recognize them. Cyber scams, how to recognize and mitigate them. Online safety. Cloud security. Secure your browser. Mobile security. The role of the employee. And conclusion. Introduction. In today's technical landscape, we can't imagine our business or even Cybercrime cost for companies is rising every year. The past 12 months have seen no shortage of cybercrime incidents as ransomware gangs ran amok, with security teams seemingly powerless to do much more than watch on in shock. Some of the bigger cyber attacks of the year even had damaging real-world implications, which served to bring cybercrime mainstream attention and to the top of national security agendas, particularly in the U.S. and U.K. Meanwhile, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic continued to loom large, with cybercriminals showing no shame as they attempted to disrupt organizations in the healthcare sector. Here are some cybercrime stories of 2021. 1. Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack has grave consequences. Though it did not trouble the fuel supply at petrol stations in the UK, the DarkSide ransomware attack against Colonial Pipeline, the operator of the largest fuel pipeline in the U.S. in May 21, was one of the most impactful cyber incidents of recent years. Indeed, it may have prompted concerted action against ransomware gangs at long last. Time will tell. As we reported in the immediate aftermath of the attack, the U.S. government was forced to declare an emergency, and the Department of Transportation temporarily relaxed regulations across most of the mid-Atlantic and southern U.S. and Texas that governed how long truckers were permitted to remain behind the wheel to improve flexibility in the fuel supply chain. 2. Reveal crew wants $70 million in Kaseya ransomware heist. It was a 4 July summer blockbuster as the Reveal ransomware crew demanded a cumulative $70 million ransom payment from over 1,000 businesses whose IT systems were locked after the gang compromised services provider Kaseya in a classic example of a supply chain hack. Such was the scale of the incident that the Reveal group was forced to go into hiding for a time, subsequently emerging only to find that their infrastructure had been hacked back by law enforcement. One gang member is now facing extradition to the U.S. to answer for his crimes. Others are on the run. 3. Black Matter gang ramps up attacks on multiple victims. Ransomware gangs come and go for many reasons. But one thing is certain, whether a rebrand of an existing group or a new player in the game, there will always be someone else ready to take their place. One of 2021's more impactful emergent ransom crews is known as Black Matter, and in September we reported on a spate of attacks against multiple targets that prompted warnings from around the security community. 4. Irish Health Service hit by major ransomware attack. On the morning of 14 May, the Conti ransomware gang hit the headlines after they encrypted the system of the Irish Health Service executive in a callous and truly heartless cyber attack. The incident caused significant disruption to patient services across Ireland and prompted a large-scale response that even saw the army drafted in. Mercifully, there were no recorded fatalities as a direct result of the incident, but over 6 months on, the service has not fully recovered. 5. Stolen Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine data leaked. Cybercriminals also tried their best to disrupt the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine program in Europe, when data related to the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which was stolen in December 2020 following a cyber attack against the European Medicines Agency, was leaked on the Internet in January 2021. The data dump included screenshots of emails, peer review information, and other documents including PDFs and PowerPoint presentations. 6. Police raids around world after investigators crack Anam cryptophone app in major hacking operation. In June, police in 16 countries launched multiple raids after intercepting the communications of organized criminal groups. The gangs had been sending messages on an encrypted communications network, unaware that it was being run by the FBI. This was only one of several similar raids in 2021, which, while successful at disrupting organized cybercrime, have at the same time surfaced legitimate concerns over the ability of law enforcement to conduct surveillance and the admissibility of the evidence they collected. 7. Retailer Fatface pays $2 million in ransom to Conti cybercriminals. In March, Computer Weekly broke the news that fashion retailer Fatface had paid a $2 million ransom to the Conti ransomware gang following a successful cyber attack on its systems that took place in January. The ransomware operators had initially demanded a ransom of $8 million, approximately 213 bitcoins at the prevailing rate, but were successfully talked down during a protracted negotiation process. 8. Scammers accidentally reveal fake Amazon review data. Over the years, Computer Weekly has often covered data loss incidents at organizations that failed to secure their databases correctly, so it was gratifying in May to find that cybercriminals and fraudsters are bad at operational security too. This unfortunate scammer accidentally exposed more than 13 million records in an open Elasticsearch database, and in so doing blew the lid on a massive fake review scam implicating hundreds of third-party Amazon sellers in unethical and illegal behavior. 9. $50 million ransomware demand on Acer is highest ever. Roy Castle and Cheryl Baker taught a generation of British schoolchildren that records are made to be broken, so perhaps members of the Reeville ransomware gang also watched BBC One after school when they were younger. Either way, the $50 million ransom demand made against PC company Acer was, for a time, the highest ever made. Details of the record-breaking double extortion attack emerged in March when the gang published Acer's data to its leak site, but investigations by Computer Weekly's sister titles Le Mag IT and Search Security were instrumental in uncovering and highlighting the ransomware demand. 10. Ransomware gangs seek people skills for negotiations. Finally, in July 2021, we reported on how the increasing sophistication of the cybercriminal underground was being reflected in how ransomware operations put together their operations, seeking out specialist talent and skill sets. Indeed, researchers from Kila found that some gangs are coming to resemble corporations, with diversified roles and even outsourced negotiations with victims. Naturally, people skills are in high demand as gangs try to sweet-talk their victims into coughing up. Before we go further to more complicated topics like type of cyber attacks and threats, we have to understand some of the basics. Need to know cybersecurity terms. They will help us to better understand and be prepared for cyber attacks. Cybersecurity has quickly become a priority for consumers and businesses alike. For the past 7 years, data security has been a top concern for IT departments. If you're not tuned into the cybersecurity world, you may be a little confused by some of the terminology. To help us decode the difference between things like IPS and VPN, here's a basic list of terms and their definitions to get you started. Authentication, the process of verifying a person's identity when trying to gain access to a computer or files. APT, Advanced Persistent Threat, a high-level, complex attack aimed at obtaining sensitive data over a long period of time. Backup, storing copies of your files on a server, hard drive, computer, or removable drive to access in case of loss. Cloud computing, computing services from remote servers. Cybersecurity, the strategic act of protecting information and communications through a variety of sophisticated tools, policies, and processes. Data breach, unauthorized access of data. Encryption, transforming data to conceal or hide it. Endpoint security, securing devices at the endpoint of a network. These include mobile devices, such as tablets or laptops, that employees use. Enterprise risk management, a comprehensive approach to protect a company's assets by identifying risks, implementing countermeasures, and responding to threats in real time. Firewall, hardware or software designed to keep unwanted users out of your network. Hacker, someone who violates security to access data for a malicious reason. ISP, or Internet Service Provider, a company that supplies a connection to the Internet. IPS, Intrusion Prevention System, a program that detects and blocks hackers from accessing your computer or data. Keystroke Logger, software or a hardware device that records keystrokes to secretly capture information like passwords. Malware, software intended to carry out unauthorized and harmful actions on a computer. Phishing, email scams sent by hackers meant to obtain sensitive information like banking information or passwords. Risk assessment, the process of identifying potential risks that your specific company and network face. Spyware, malware that monitors activities or information on your computer without consent and sends it to another person. VPN, Virtual Private Network, A safer way to access the web by routing your connection through a server that conceals your location. Virus, malware designed to self-replicate. Worm, malware that installs itself once on a computer and copies itself to other computers. Mandatory training for employees. What is information and cybersecurity, and why is it needed? Cybersecurity is the practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks, and data from malicious attacks. It's also known as information technology security or electronic information security. The term applies in a variety of contexts, from business to mobile computing, and can be divided into a few common categories. Network security is the practice of securing a computer network from intruders, whether targeted attackers or opportunistic malware. Application security focuses on keeping software and devices free of threats. A compromised application could provide access to the data it's designed to protect. Successful security begins in the design stage, well before a program or device is deployed. Information security protects the integrity and privacy of data, both in storage and in transit. Operational security includes the processes and decisions for handling and protecting data assets, the permissions users have when accessing a network, and the procedures that determine how and where data may be stored or shared all fall under this umbrella. Disaster recovery and business continuity define how an organization responds to a cybersecurity incident or any other event that causes the loss of operations or data. Disaster recovery policies dictate how the organization restores its operations and information to return to the same operating capacity as before the event. Business continuity is the plan the organization falls back on while trying to operate without certain resources. End-user education addresses the most unpredictable cybersecurity factor: people. Anyone can accidentally introduce a virus to an otherwise secure system by failing to follow good security practices, teaching users to delete suspicious email attachments, not plug in unidentified USB drives, and various other important lessons is vital for the security of any organization. The security of any organization starts with three principles: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which has served as the industry standard for computer security since the time of the first mainframes. Confidentiality. The principles of confidentiality assert that only authorized parties can access sensitive information and functions, for example, military secrets. Integrity. The principles of integrity assert that only authorized people and means can alter, add, or remove sensitive information and functions. Example, a user entering incorrect data into the database. Availability. The principles of availability assert that systems, functions, and data must be available on demand according to agreed-upon parameters based on levels of service. Now that we know the definition and what cybersecurity is covering, next up, let's look at cybersecurity attacks. What is a cyber attack? Before heading to the different types of cyber attacks, we will first walk you through some information about cyber attacks. When there is an unauthorized system or network access by a third party, we term it as a cyber attack. The person who carries out the cyber attack is termed as a hacker or attacker. Cyber attacks have several negative effects. When an attack is carried out, it can lead to data breaches, resulting in data loss or data manipulation. Organizations incur financial losses, customer trust gets hampered, and there is reputational damage. To put a curb on cyber attacks, we implement cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is the method of safeguarding networks, computer systems, and their components from unauthorized digital access. Now that you know what a cyber attack is, let us look at the different types of cyber attacks. There are many varieties of cyber attacks that happen in the world today. If we know the various types of cyber attacks, it becomes easier for us to protect our networks and systems against them. Here we will closely examine the top cyber attacks that can affect an individual or a large business depending upon the scale. Let's start with the individual types of cyber attacks, starting from the most common and frequently used ones. Email scams. Phishing. What is phishing? Phishing attacks are the most common method that cybercriminals use to gain access to an organization's network. They take advantage of human nature to trick their target into falling for the scam by offering some incentive, free stuff, a business opportunity, and so on, or creating a sense of urgency. These attacks are counterfeit communications that appear to come from a trustworthy source, but which can compromise all types of data sources. Attacks can facilitate access to your online accounts and personal data, obtain permissions to modify and compromise connected systems, such as point-of-sale terminals and order processing systems, and in some cases hijack entire computer networks until a ransom fee is delivered. Sometimes hackers are satisfied with getting your personal data and credit card information for financial gain. In other cases, phishing emails are sent to gather employee login information or other details for use in more malicious attacks against a few individuals or a specific company. Phishing is a type of cyber attack that everyone should learn about in order to protect themselves and ensure email security throughout an organization. How does it happen, and how to prevent it? This is still one of the most efficient cybercrime methods. Phishing assaults doubled in 2020 and continue to rise in 2021. Furthermore, remote work makes it tougher for organizations to protect their users. However, why is phishing still a problem in 2022? One key reason is the sophistication of these attacks. For example, a business email compromise attack combines prior research on a specific individual, like a company's senior executive. With this, they can develop an assault that looks very legitimate. With more sophisticated assaults and the prevalent notion that phishing is easy to spot, it's no surprise that many firms will face a phishing-related breach in 2022. Employees, therefore, require regular training on how to recognize contemporary phishing attacks and how to report them as soon as they suspect they've been targeted. Why do criminals use a phishing attack? What's the biggest security vulnerability in an organization? Unfortunately, the answer is the people. Whenever they want to infect a computer or gain access to important information like account numbers, passwords, or PIN numbers, all they have to do is ask. Phishing attacks are commonplace because they are easy to do. A 6-year-old child could perform a phishing attack. Scalable. They range from spear phishing attacks that hit one person to attacks on an entire organization. Very effective. 74% of organizations have experienced a successful phishing attack. Phishing attacks are not just popular because they are easy to accomplish successfully. They are popular because they are highly profitable. So, how do criminals profit from phishing scams? They typically sell your credentials on the dark web for other criminals to exploit. Here are some stats on what credentials go for on the dark web. Gmail account credentials, $80. Credit card PIN, $20. Online bank credentials for accounts with at least $100 in them, $40. Bank accounts with at least $2,000, $120. You're probably thinking, wow, my accounts are going for the bottom dollar. And this is true. There are other types of accounts that go for a much higher price tag because they are easier to keep money transfers anonymous. Accounts that hold crypto are the jackpot for phishing scammers. The going rates for crypto accounts are Coinbase, $610, Blockchain.com, $310, Binance, $410. There are also other non-financial reasons for phishing attacks. Phishing attacks can be used by nation-states to hack into other countries and mine their data. Attacks can be for personal vendettas or even to destroy the reputations of corporations or political enemies. The reasons for phishing attacks can be almost endless. How does a phishing attack start? A phishing attack usually starts with a criminal coming right out and messaging you. 2. Password security. Security and authentication. Passwords are the most common and easiest to use authentication system in existence. Most employees have dozens of online accounts that are accessed by providing a username, often their email address, and a password. The Enterprise Password Challenge. All of these password challenges are magnified for businesses because a business network is only as protected as its weakest link. One employee or business partner with a weak password can end up compromising the entire network. Establishing and implementing a security policy is a must for all businesses, but experience shows that simply advising and exhorting business users to follow good security practices is not enough. This is especially true when it comes to passwords. Below you will find the most important things to remember on how to protect and handle your passwords. Never share your password. Nobody except you should ever know your password. Never email your password or store it on a document or write it down on paper. Ideally, your password should only be visible to you and no other. Here is a list of some of the people to whom you should never ever give your password. Your friend who is actually really cool. Someone asking for it in an email. Your boss. Literally anyone. Your password is what makes you accountable for the actions taken under your account. Socially engineering a password out of someone is often much easier than hacking their account. Most phishing schemes trick you into giving up your password in some way or another. Why go to the trouble of blowing the safe if you can have the bank manager open it up for you? Creating a strong password. Not just any password will do, and the reason why relates to how passwords are cracked. If a person were trying to guess your password, they might try 10 or so passwords a minute if they're fast. A computer can guess much, much faster. So how many permutations does it take to get your password? Here are 3 key factors. Length. Each character increases the complexity exponentially. This is why passwords typically have a minimum requirement of 8 characters. Character sets. Each character set has a certain number of permutations. There are 26 lowercase letters, but only 10 digits, 0 through 9, so you can see how potato is more secure than 536871 from the perspective of a machine running through different combinations of characters. Common words. Brute force isn't the only method to crack a password. A computer can run a dictionary attack against a password very quickly, testing for all real words, of which there are relatively few, compared to the huge number of character permutations possible. All of a sudden, potato isn't that great of a password after all. Your password should be a combination of at least both upper and lowercase letters and a number. 62 unique reusable characters with 8 characters in the password means 62 to the 8th power, or 2.1834011 times 10 to the 14th possible combinations. Include a special character to increase complexity, but make sure that character is supported by the mechanism you're using, as some are not. Finally, you can find any number of password generators online, which can generate extremely complex passwords. But you have to remember this, and when you get down to step 5, having separate passwords for every account can be too much to ask with 18-character randomly generated passwords. Set a reminder to change your password. Some services require regular password changes, while some do not. If they don't, it's always a good plan to change your password regularly anyway. This step is about reducing the window of damage. A simple reminder every 6 months or even a year would have prevented this old data breach from compromising anything. The more often you change your password, the smaller the window of a compromised password being worthwhile. This is why high-security systems use randomly generated numbers that change every few minutes as part of their authentication model. Changing your password on a regular basis may seem annoying, but that's nothing compared to dealing with a compromised account, identity theft, or credit card fraud. Don't reuse passwords. Alternating between passwords doesn't have the same effect as changing them to something new each time. Once a password is compromised, it can be exploited at any point in time, even years later. Reusing a password reopens the vulnerability window for that password. Different site, different password. Limiting the scope of your password prevents a compromised password from exploiting multiple areas. Even adding a section somewhere in your password, like FB for Facebook, for example, buffduff FB, will prevent most cross-site compromises because once the attacker realizes the same password won't crack the site, they would then have to manually start guessing at differences without knowing if it's an entirely different password altogether. The full effect of the LinkedIn data breach has likely not been seen yet. As email password combos are tried at other sites, users who relied on a single static password will be compromised. This ripple effect to other systems follows major breaches every time. Secure your reset options. This step protects you against people rather than computers trying to hack your account. Be thoughtful with how your password can be reset. Security questions and answers should not be information that is publicly available, easily searchable, or widely known to people who know you. Many people's accounts are hacked by people they know in real life. If you have an email account where a password reset request was sent, make sure you have sole access to that account and that it too has a strong password. Use a password manager. You can use a password manager to store your passwords for you. The major browsers all have password storage systems, while cloud options like LastPass work from any computer with internet access. There are pros and cons to this method. Consider that LastPass suffered a data breach in 2015 where sensitive information was acquired by hackers. The encrypted master password was not compromised, but much other important information was. The important thing to remember is that password managers are not magic. You're simply outsourcing the protection of your passwords to someone else. Use two-factor authentication. Probably one of the most important mechanisms available, 2FA as its name implies, prevents the compromise of a single authentication factor, the password, from compromising the account. The mechanism typically works by requesting the traditional login information, then sending a confirmation to a device, usually a smartphone, such as a text, phone call, or in-app security verification screen. Ideally, only the authorized person would have the smartphone and could then accept or reject the authentication requests as necessary. More advanced mechanisms can require bioauthentication, such as a fingerprint swipe, which prevents lost or stolen phones from being used to falsely issue confirmations. Most cloud apps offer 2FA now, with many traditional applications following suit. It's worth taking a few extra seconds every time you log in to know that even if your password is hacked, nobody can access your accounts. Don't leave windows open. There's a classic cartoon gag where one of the characters struggles for a long time to pick a lock on a door, while the other character just goes in through an open window. Don't let this be the case with your data. Consider whether there are other accounts with access to the same information you're protecting. Are they as secure as yours? What about integrations? Did you try out that hilarious face-swapping app that requested access to your Twitter and Facebook and photos? Does it still have access to your account? Most cloud services will let you track what third-party integrations have access and remove whatever is unnecessary. If you're using a public computer, be sure to close the entire browser process when you're done. Failure to do so could leave your session cookies available for the next person, who wouldn't even need to log in to access your information. Digital identity management is in that weird place between new enough that most people don't bother with it and established enough that sophisticated attacks seek to exploit it. A username and password may seem like just a bit of data you toss into the cloud whenever, but the consequences of compromise are very real and can be legal, financial, and personal. Password do's and don'ts for everyone to follow. Don't make exceptions for anyone on your staff to opt out of your password policy, especially the executive team. While executives may gripe about password resets more than any other group at your organization, they are the most frequently targeted group. First, the don'ts. Avoid using the following in your passwords: address, home and office; date of birth; phone number; personal, child, or spouse birthday; anything about you posted on social media as an interest, including sports teams, hobbies, cars, etc. Try to avoid using common phrases in your passwords as well, such as these: I love you; QWERTY, in any form without special characters. Superman, Batman, Sunshine, Admin, Welcome, Princess, Football, Baseball, sports teams like Liverpool or Manchester in the United Kingdom or Cowboys or Lakers in the United States. Swear words, very common actually. The F word ends up getting turned back on you when the hacker is breaking into your account, though. Now for the do's. As far as password strength goes, it's well known in 2019 that you should include the following: upper and lowercase letters, numbers, special characters, such as the exclamation point, the @ sign, pound, $sign, %, caret, ampersand, asterisk, and open and close parentheses. The strongest passwords will have a combination of the following characteristics. Long. The longer the password, the harder to crack. While your account may only require 6 to 9 characters, expanding to 12, 16, or more will give you a stronger password. Not in the dictionary. Avoid single words or common phrases that can be found in the dictionary or vernacular. Character substitutions. Substituting characters for letters is a good practice, but you want to think outside the box. Don't substitute 0 for the letter O and assume you are safe. A better option would be using the ampersand for O. Illogical phrases. While you wouldn't want to use a common phrase like "thank you very much," you could string together completely random words like "thank Cheeseboats Network." Acronyms and abbreviations. Instead of spelling out words, abbreviate them or replace phrases with acronyms that you can remember. Using the example above, "thank you very much" could be TKYVREM. Of course, you would add more to it so it's longer and has a variety of characters. The most common passwords. Just for fun, here's a list of the most common passwords in the United States, courtesy of the National Cybersecurity Center's Global Breach Analysis. Show this to your staff and warn them not to use these phrases or keywords. Also, if you have any of these as passwords, you should probably change them right now. 123456. 123456789. QWERTY. Password. 111111. 1234567 ABC 123. 1234567. Password 1. 12345. Pro tip for password security. Set your policy on password resets for every 90 days following the guidelines above. Don't buy software as a service unless it forces password resets and supports two-factor authentication. Be vigilant about the APIs your employees are asking for and conduct thorough investigations. This is by far the easiest and most impactful thing you can do when it comes to IT security, and it shouldn't cost you anything. Poor password security is one of the biggest threats to modern enterprise security. Please find below short brief for password management best practices. Always use a unique password for each online account. Passwords should be randomly generated. Passwords should contain a mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. Use a password manager to generate and store strong passwords for each account. Use multi-factor authentication, MFA, when available, to reduce the impact of a compromised password. Removable media. What is removable media? Removable media is a portable storage device that allows users to copy data from one device to another. Malware-infected USB drives might be left for users to discover when they plug them in. Removable media, such as USBs, CDs, and so on, are a useful tool for cybercriminals since they enable malware to bypass an organization's network-based security defenses. Malware can be installed on the media and configured to execute automatically with auto-run, or have an enticing file name to trick employees into clicking. Malicious removable media can steal data, install ransomware, or even destroy the computer they're inserted into. Malicious removable media can be distributed by being dropped in parking lots and common areas, or being handed out at conferences or other public events. Removable media gives users convenience when it comes to accessing personal or business data on the go. USB flash drives are one of the most popular removable media devices used today, and as the use increases, so do the associated risks. Hackers have the tendency to go after popular devices and search for possible ways to install malware. Using these devices will increase the risk of data loss, data exposure, and there is an increased chance of network-based attacks. In this article, I go into detail about removable media and security best practices to protect your removable media and devices. Removable media, like a USB drive, that can be connected to a computer, network, or information system that is used for transporting and storing data. It is convenient, cost-effective, and is available in many different sizes. Those are some of the reasons why the removable media can be used so easily for malicious purposes. Uses of removable media. There are two main uses for removable media. 1. For additional portable storage. 2. To allow for data to be copied, transferred, or accessed on other computers. When it comes to cybersecurity best practices, removable media and devices should only be plugged into trusted computers. If you find a USB flash drive on the ground, don't pick it up, because there's a possibility that it could be malicious. A hacker may have planted it on the ground to see if someone would pick it up and insert it into their device. If inserted into your computer, malware could immediately be downloaded onto your device. Removable media examples. Here are some examples of different kinds of removable media devices. USB flash drives. External hard drives, for example, SSD. Card reader, for example, SD card and memory card. Removable disks, for example, Blu-ray discs, CD-ROMs, or DVDs. Removable media security risks. Removable media introduces many security risks and vulnerabilities as it stores a large volume of data, including sensitive data. Therefore, failure to properly manage and secure these removable media and devices could expose users to the following risks. Removable media can be easy to lose, which could result in the compromise of the sensitive information stored on it. You should be aware that some media types may be able to retain information even after deletion. Malware could be introduced on a system via a flash drive once inserted into the USB port. Data exfiltration. If you are not careful and insert an unknown USB drive, may be malicious and could steal data from an organization. Auto-run is problematic, especially with removable media. They can be helpful, but hackers abuse this feature by setting malicious programs to run automatically on removable media. Reputational damage is the loss of sensitive information that can negatively affect an organization's reputation. Best practices for removable media. The best protection against any attack on removable media is to insert only trusted removable media into your computer. However, there are other preventive measures as well, including the following. Install anti-malware, antivirus software on your computer. This will actively scan for any viruses or malware when a removable media or device is connected. Disable the auto-run and autoplay features. These features will automatically run when plugged into a USB port. Implement access controls to protect the data on removable media by password protecting your removable media or device. Implement physical security if necessary to prevent removable media from being used. Remove sensitive data from removable media or device once you have finished transferring the data. Make sure that all removable media and devices are encrypted. File Vault can be used for Mac OS and BitLocker for Windows. Do not allow USB flash drives to be used within an organization. Employee security awareness training is one of the most effective ways to protect against cyber threats by teaching them not to insert untrusted removable media into their computer. If for some reason an employee needs to plug in the flash drive, then the organization should have a process to handle such a case. For example, testing the USB drive on a sandbox environment for any malicious activity. Final thoughts: removable media. Using removable media like a flash drive can be dangerous within an organization because the malware is able to bypass the security solution that is deployed at an organization's network perimeter. USB drives are the best ways for hackers to exfiltrate sensitive data from an organization and are more difficult to detect. Each time that a removable media device is used, there is the possibility that a computer may become infected. Since removable media and devices are an integral part of today's society, it is important that all users and top executives within an organization understand what they can do to protect themselves and the organization from malware and viruses. Brief of some of the most important things to remember regarding removable media safety. Never plug untrusted removable media into a computer. Bring all untrusted removable media to IT or security for scanning. Disable auto-run on all computers. Install anti-malware and antivirus software on your computer. Disable the auto-run and autoplay features. Clean desk policy. Sensitive information on a desk, such as sticky notes, papers, and printouts, can easily be taken by thieving hands and seen by prying eyes. A clean desk policy should state that information visible on a desk should be limited to what is currently necessary. Before leaving the workspace for any reason, all sensitive and confidential information should be securely stored. What is a clean desk and clear screen policy? A clean desk policy is a simple way of maintaining your company's security, but often it is overlooked. In this post, we'll look at the pros and cons of a clean desk policy and why it's increasingly implemented in certain businesses. A clean desk policy involves removing any sensitive business information from your desk every day. This includes USB sticks, notebooks, business cards, and printed documents. A lot of documents, printouts, and notes can pile up in a day. Making sure these are properly filed or disposed of accordingly is the real aim of a clean desk policy. This should be combined with a clear screen policy, logging off every time you are away from your computer. What is the purpose of a clean desk policy? The purpose of a clean desk policy is both security and to improve efficiency at work. At first glance, a clean desk policy can sound a little bit overbearing, but apart from being part of good general office cleanliness and encouraging practical working environments, a clean desk policy maintains the security of the office from outsiders, or even someone internal. But more worrying than the odd pen going missing is the security of your business from the threat of malicious actors. In the most serious cases, leaving important documents around could be in breach of the Data Protection Act. If you're based in the EU, you may need to stay aware of GDPR policies. The GDPR policies have been written flexibly, not only applying to digital data, but physical data too. So a document hacked online is just as significant as a piece of paper swiped from an office. This can lead to fines of up to 4% of the company's annual turnover. Quite a serious problem for leaving your desk untidy. How would you implement a clean desk policy? It's most helpful to have a simple clean desk checklist to send to your employees so they're aware of what they can and can't leave behind. If the employees are not sure of what they can and can't leave behind, it can cause confusion, which may lead to wasted time. It also makes it simpler if they can check off their list at the end of each day to ensure the policy is followed. There are some simple changes you can make to your office to implement a clean desk policy. 1. Lockable storage. To make life easier for your employees, have lockable desks that they can store their files and documents in is an essential for any clean desk policy. Having employees carrying around their desk's contents defeats the entire purpose. They need a safe space to store their items. 2. Encourage electronic documents. The best way to avoid leaving paper documents with important information lying around is simply to keep notes on your computer. Keep your company secure and help the environment too. One suggestion is to add a note on your email footer reminding employees not to print out emails. 3. Friendly email to employees. A friendly nudge to employees at the end of each day can help to encourage this behavior. Just make sure it doesn't come across as though you're punishing them or being unnecessarily overvigilant. After a while, it will become a habit to ensure the clean desk policy is followed. 4. Make it a competition. Everyone likes rewards. Rewarding those that stick to the policy is probably the best way to encourage this initiative and make it seem less oppressive, and provides benefits to those who stick to it. Remember, you don't want the policy to turn into an office-shaming email for untidy Ted. 5. Encourage senior management of the benefits. If the initiative is coming from the top down, it's much more likely to be effective. Making sure that senior management back the policy and stick to it, too, is a great way to lead by example for the rest of the business. Pros and cons of a clean desk policy. Pro. Keeps valuable data secure. As said earlier, leaving a printed out email or any sensitive data can lead to a breach of GDPR regulations. To make sure you're safe, keep it clean. Pro. Environmentally friendly. Adding a short reminder to the end of emails to avoid printing out documents saves the environment as well as the potential risk of a security breach. So stay secure while saving the environment. Pro. Looks more professional. If you're the type of company that often has clients into the office, impress them with how professional it is. Clients may see your office as a reflection as your organization, so you don't want that impression to be disorganized and messy. Con. Time-consuming and hard to enforce. Let's face it, having a member of staff walk around at the end of each day to check the rule has been enforced isn't the greatest job in the world and is time-consuming for the employee. Added to this is the time each employee will have to spend tidying their desk each day. This adds up. Although there is a counter-argument that cleaner desks save employees time they would spend looking for documents. Con. Can seem over the top to employees. Employees may look at this initiative as over the top, and time spent that they could be doing more valuable work. Nobody wants a helicopter boss breathing down your neck about paper left on your desk. Make sure everyone's clear about why the policy is important from a security standpoint. Con. Takes away from employee freedom. An interesting study by Haslam and Knight found that the more empowered that workers felt over their own workspace, the happier they were, whereas if they disliked the office space, they also disliked the company that was hosting it, and they disliked the task they were doing in it. By putting restrictions on what employees can and can't have on their desk, it limits their sense of freedom and control of their environment, which may leave them dissatisfied. Therefore, you must strike a balance between allowing personalization and keeping a tidy workspace. What is a good example of a clean desk policy? The key to an effective clean desk policy is making sure you have created a clear policy that everyone is aware of. Automating and tracking the policy should ensure that the policy is implemented company-wide. Data management and privacy. Most organizations collect, store, and process a great deal of sensitive information. This includes customer data, employee records, business strategies, and other data important to the proper operation of the business. If any of this data is publicly exposed or accessible to a competitor or cybercriminal, then the organization may face significant regulatory penalties, damage to consumer relationships, and a loss of competitive advantage. Data privacy in 2022. What you need to know. Data Privacy Week, January 24 through 28, is an international effort to drive awareness about personal data privacy. Millions of people are unaware of how their personal data is being collected, used, or shared in our increasingly digital society. As a business, it's more important than ever to have a data privacy strategy to protect customers and employees and remain compliant with applicable regulations. In an era of heightened risk and uncertainty, remote workforces, and complex technologies, having effective policies and procedures that are easy to understand and accurate has become critical to keeping pace in the developing global regulatory landscape. Data privacy and protection. Why is it important? Data privacy is the set of strategies and processes that focuses on how personal data is collected, processed, stored, shared, retained, and destroyed, while data protection focuses on securing the availability and integrity of data and protecting assets from unauthorized access. A data privacy and protection strategy are crucial for any organization because it aims to provide individuals with transparency, control over their data and how it's used, and to protect personal data from unintended access and use. Without a data privacy and protection strategy, your organization may be more vulnerable to consumer complaints, regulatory investigations, and fines, and fraudulent activities like identity theft, phishing, and hacking. To understand what data privacy and protection is all about and to use it in the right way, you have to know how to develop a strategy for it. You need to understand the following aspects. The business. Understanding the business is key to a data privacy and protection program. The more you know about the business, the more you'll understand about the types of data it processes and the level of protection required, and so on. The data. Many organizations collect personal data from both internal and external sources. For example, a bank collects financial information from customers. A healthcare organization collects health information. All organizations collect and process personal data of their employees. It's important to identify the categories of personal data, as this will inform various privacy notices, policies, and procedures. The purpose. It's one thing to identify data, but to understand what the data is and how it serves a purpose in your organization is an entirely different task. This is important when building a data privacy and protection strategy because it helps you populate your personal data inventories and records of processing, where applicable or legally required. Identify opportunities for data minimization, confirm that the data collected is proportional to the purpose, and implement appropriate safeguards. Data privacy and protection. 5 steps from where we can get started. Identifying data, how that data is used, Classifying the data and outlining what actions to take with each type of data is key to data privacy. Here are 5 things all organizations can do to begin or enhance their data privacy strategy. 1. Identify where your data is located. It can be a challenging task, but identifying where your data is should be the first step in protecting it. Where does all your data live and where does it go? What types of data exist? Where is it physically hosted? Discovering your data is a foundational task because it informs the rest of your data privacy and protection strategy. 2. Identify what your data is. You cannot protect your data without first understanding what you have. After identifying where the data is, the next step is to create a personal data inventory and record what you do with that data. At this stage, you may also tag the data by classification. Data classification helps to organize the data into groups, most often according to level of sensitivity, to enable efficient data protection. It's also important to note that data protection and e-discovery have certain functional overlap, and that we see a rise in privacy programs leveraging e-discovery solutions as part of their privacy strategy and toolsets. Data investigation is also less burdensome when your data is classified, therefore the two can be interdependent. 3. Determine who has access to the data. Who currently has access to each type of data? This includes internal stakeholders as well as third-party recipients, such as service providers or partners. Knowing who's receiving or accessing the data and where they are located affects the rules you're placing around the data and transfers. Certain privacy laws may also require data localization or additional technical, organizational, and contractual safeguards to transfer data cross-border. 4. Define how you will implement privacy controls. Once you understand your data, you can better customize privacy policies and procedures. For example, you can use your personal data inventory to guide where and how to execute a data subject or consumer rights request. Understanding your business, technologies, and risk profile can also help you create a customized privacy by design program and methodology that embeds privacy controls during the early stages of a project or development lifecycle. 5. Implement technical and organizational controls. A data privacy strategy relies upon the implementation of strong security controls. This includes organizational or programmatic controls such as policies, training and awareness, incident response plans, and password policies, as well as technical controls such as encryption, anonymization, logging, multi-factor authentication, and vulnerability detection. One important safeguard for data protection is data loss prevention, or DLP, which prevents unauthorized leakage of data outside of the organization. Once data is classified, the technical implementation of DLP can establish policies for each layer of classification to prevent unwanted sharing. Once implemented, continuously monitor and maintain the policies to stay up to date with business needs and regulatory requirements. Employees within an organization need to be trained on how to properly manage the business's sensitive data to protect data security and customer privacy. Important key components of data privacy: the business's data classification strategy and how to identify and protect data at each level. Regulatory requirements that could impact an employee's day-to-day operations. Approved storage locations for sensitive data on the enterprise network. Use a strong password and multi-factor authentication for accounts with access to sensitive data. Remote work security awareness. Remote working can benefit both employers and people. It can increase productivity and improve work-life balance. When COVID-19 traversed the globe, the economy couldn't just grind to a halt. It had to adapt. Office workers in their millions created home working stations, and companies adopted new forms of communication and management to suit a workforce confined to their homes. By the second quarter of 2020, around 557 million people worldwide were working from home, including 35% of workers in the USA. And even after the pandemic subsides, many of those people will continue to work at home. As Pew reports, around half of workers wish to continue home working, while McKinsey argues that at least 25% of U.S. jobs are well-suited to remain work from home. Pre-2020, only about 5% of Americans worked from home. The pandemic brought significant changes to working life. But are workers and companies prepared for the cybersecurity implications of exchanging the workplace for home offices? Working from home, understanding the core risks. Staying safe when working from home has become a vital part of cybersecurity for companies worldwide, and that means embracing hybrid work security practices that tackle the problem from every angle. Working remotely brings with it multiple hazards with serious implications. Millions of new connections and endpoints need to be checked and protected. Employees must have secure ways to remotely access corporate resources, requiring legacy infrastructure to be updated. If these issues are left unresolved, exposure to potential threats remain. Phishing, sending emails or other communications to entice workers to download malware that harvests sensitive data. Ransomware, malicious software infects connected systems before demanding payment. Spyware, implantation of software designed to collect data which fraudsters or competitors could use. Zero-day attacks, attacks specifically focused on unpatched operating systems and apps, which may be hard to monitor remotely. Data theft, stealing login details to access customer and employee databases or directly infiltrating them. Sabotage, unsupervised workers either deliberately or unwittingly damage corporate assets. There are several approaches to these risks. If you approach security from the top and bottom simultaneously, you can achieve much better results than relying on individuals alone. So, how can businesses make working from home safer? No matter where you are working from, the following security best practices have to be followed. 1. Use a good VPN and antivirus tools. The first thing for all remote workers to do is lock down their connection securely. It's not enough to rely on Windows' own security software when the stakes are so high. Instead, invest in a solid virtual private network, or VPN, and antivirus software that's regularly updated and provided by a reputable organization. VPNs encrypt the data you send and receive. They also anonymize your online presence, making it very hard for attackers to identify, let alone target. Antivirus security software is the front line in battling malware. Some popular tools themselves carry crypto mining software, so be aware and choose apps that focus on security alone. 2. Make your password security watertight. Remote working is only as secure as the methods used to secure it. Choose almost impossible passwords to guess and change them regularly. Never write down your credentials. Alternatively, use a password manager to keep your login details encrypted and safe at all times. 3. Don't forget Wi-Fi security. The network you use to connect with work can also be a weak point, allowing attackers to gain complete control of your traffic or gain access to central servers. So locking down your wireless internet is just as important as using a VPN for your computer. Choose a Wi-Fi password that's secure and unique, and a network ID that doesn't signify to attackers who you are. Enable WPA2 network encryption if that's available. Specify authorized MAC addresses to govern who can gain access to your network, and always download the latest router firmware. Cover all of that and your network security should be solid. Shield your webcam when not in use. Some attacks have involved hijacking webcams and gathering information, recording meetings, and, on occasion, extorting money from targets. Using apps like Zoom is unavoidable, but there's no reason to expose your camera when discussions aren't taking place. Malware can control your camera without your knowledge, but you can mitigate that risk by using sliding webcam covers or even pieces of tape. You may think about using external cameras that can be unplugged and disabling the camera on your computer. That way you'll have a physical prompt to keep you focused on security. 5. Be savvy when using email. Many of the most damaging work-from-home cyber attacks come via regular emails. Phishers are skilled at disguising messages to look authentic enticing unwitting users to click on download links before they realize what is happening. Be ultra cautious when opening emails. Check the address line to make sure it's legitimate. Don't open mail from unexpected sources, and don't open attachments unless you know exactly why they're there and what they contain. If you want to add an extra layer of security, think about switching to an encrypted email provider. There may be some added inconvenience, but encrypted mails are much less likely to be intercepted and read by criminals. 6. Stay focused on physical security. Physical theft remains one of the most common problems associated with remote working. Thieves can steal your computer, smartphone, or authentication tools provided by third parties, and if the data contained on those devices isn't encrypted, the results can be catastrophic. Take care when using your laptop in public spaces, and use complete system encryption services to freeze out thieves if the worst occurs. Lock away work laptops when not in use, and carry out a security check of your entrances and windows. If you need to, install extra cameras and alarms. 7. Use separate devices for work and leisure. Sometimes security lapses occur when people forget to use their work computers. For instance, online shopping carries security risks, from insecure payment portals to fake Amazon web pages, and many people use the same computer to buy products that they do for 9-to-5 duties. That's a big mistake. The more distance you can put between work and leisure, the better. Ask for a separate company device with the required security tools. And if that's not possible, think about investing in one of your own, and the same applies to smartphones. Using a personal device for work is hugely risky in a world where criminals prey on home workers. 8. Perfect your patching game. Criminals love out-of-date operating systems. So-called zero-day exploits are a significant source of phishing and malware attacks, with countless unpatched systems targeted. Don't let your operating system be one of them. Delaying a Windows update can seem convenient, but be sure to update it as soon as you get the chance. If not, you open yourself up to attacks like WannaCry, which fed off a loophole in Windows operating systems and cost victims billions of dollars when it swept the world in 2017 and 18. 9. Use two-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication adds an extra barrier to deter would-be attackers. It generally involves using an additional piece of information stored externally, whether on specialist authentication dongles or texted to your phone when you log on. Generally speaking, SMS isn't the best vector for authentication codes because it's not secure. But app or voice-based MFA solutions exist that can do the job just as well. Even if it adds a few seconds to your login procedure, the extra protection that authentication provides is more than worth it. 10. Stay in touch with your work and continually learn. The final tip for home workers is crucial. Whatever job you do and whoever you work for, it's essential to stay in touch with your company, especially the officers responsible for digital security. Every company should have a team member delegated to lead on remote working, and they should communicate best practices, password protocols, and information about devices or authentication. If you have any cybersecurity concerns, be sure to raise them. And if training is available for personal security, take advantage of it. Cybersecurity is a rapidly changing field, and your skills should change with it. Work-from-home security advices for businesses. 1. Centralize your storage systems. Businesses need to lock down confidential data and police authorization with maximum efficiency. If you're reliant on server-based storage, it's best to do this via centralized storage systems with clear access procedures for all employees. Also, make sure that minimizing local data storage is part of your staff security protocols and communicate this to every network user. 2. Map every connection for total visibility. When you switch to wide-scale remote working, it's easy to lose control of network awareness. You could lose sight of edge points and interfaces with central servers where users are connecting and what devices they're using. This kind of fuzziness is a significant problem, so be sure to map out your network geography as your work-from-home program expands. Identify weak points. Monitor whether staff are using multiple devices or unsecured public Wi-Fi, and remedy any vulnerabilities before they become the source of malware infections. 3. Put training at the center of your business. Working from home shouldn't be seen as simply a change of work venue. It also requires employees and managers to master a new set of cybersecurity skills or to refresh their already existing skills. Home workers need to be more aware of potential threats than those working inside the perimeter of office networks, and best practices need constant reinforcement. Because of this, it's a good idea to create enterprise-wide cybersecurity training courses. That includes executives often targeted by whaling attacks due to their lack of security expertise. Everyone needs reminding of their duties, and every worker needs to keep their knowledge up to date. 4. Make network-wide tools available to every employee. Many employees already have security tools like encryption, virus checkers, and VPNs, but not every company makes these services available to remote workers. Don't hoard useful software at your central office or restrict it to specific staff members. Check the licenses and expand access if possible. If you need to add extra users, it's often cheaper to do so across large numbers of workers instead of relying on individuals to purchase vital tools for themselves. Take a holistic approach and ensure that everyone is covered. 5. Have transparent processes to secure online meetings. Your business probably relies on video meetings with staff and clients, but these tools are a common target for cyber attackers. Ensure that you log every meeting beforehand and that each event has a unique ID. Ensure that participants are legitimate and that every session is password secured. That way you can minimize the risk of surveillance attacks while discussing business matters. 6. Notify staff about essential updates. Patching the tools your teams use is vital, so be sure to communicate with staff when updates become available. Every device or operating system you use will have regular updates to handle security flaws, but there's no guarantee that employees will apply these updates. Send an email or in-app notifications to mobile devices about the need to update, and apply auto-updates if this is an option. And if staff routinely fail to patch their software, make sure you have disciplinary procedures in place to force compliance. 7. Distribute work devices to remote workers. If you provide a dedicated laptop to every remote worker, you can guard against data leakage or malware derived from activities like social media usage or online shopping. Use multi-factor authentication tools with work devices, and you'll have much more control over how office resources are accessed. You can also make the edge of your network much more secure, adding peace of mind in the process. 8. Make your password protocols crystal clear. Weak passwords are an open invitation to cyber attackers, and most employees use them from time to time. When your teams are home-based, it's hard to reiterate the importance of having solid credentials. Provide an explicit protocol with requirements about strong passwords, how regularly passwords need to be changed, what password managers to use, and the implications of lax password security. 9. Work from home doesn't mean working from anywhere. During the pandemic, most people limited themselves to home offices. But as the pandemic ebbs and a new normal stabilize, many workers will find other venues, from coffee shops to libraries, and not all of them will be secure enough to protect your networks. Unsecured public Wi-Fi networks open the door for hackers seeking access to sensitive data. Workers should use them sparingly and employ watertight VPN protection when they do. Ensure teams know that public Wi-Fi is to be avoided, and provide Wi-Fi encryption advice for their homes. It's a crucial part of locking down vulnerable network edges. 10. Encourage a productive, safe working environment. Finally, it's essential to ensure employees are healthy, alert, and keen to follow corporate security policies. Home working can result in longer hours. The lack of connection can be demotivating for some people, and it's easy to lose sight of core security priorities. Try to connect with remote workers via social events, regular communications, and general checkups. Monitor working hours and workloads, and try to be understanding when security errors occur. People aren't perfect, and they will make mistakes. The challenge is to work with our imperfections and keep those mistakes to a minimum. We know that following work-from-home best practices can enhance cybersecurity and minimize the risk of losing company data or incurring financial losses. But those risks can still appear abstract and distant until you encounter them in the wild. With that in mind, it's important to assess some of the most pressing risks associated with working from home, especially those that have become more dangerous since the COVID pandemic began. Even as many return to offices, they remain urgent, and businesses need to be aware of them if remote working has become a standard part of their operations. Malicious domains related to COVID-19. As anxiety about COVID-19 rose, so did the number of social engineering scams using the pandemic as a front for criminal activity. Homeworkers were natural targets for malicious domains and social engineering emails posing as legitimate sources. Some of these attacks can be very creative. For example, the University of British Columbia staff received a fake COVID-19 health survey in 2020. In other cases, malicious domains have spread agents like TrickBot, which harvests banking and other data. As a result, spotting fake domains has become a crucial part of work-from-home security, and many workers have failed that test. Phishing emails to elicit confidential information. Many attackers didn't need to pose as COVID information sources to take advantage of the shift to working from home. The Twitter attack of April 2020 is a great example. In that case, attackers used basic phishing techniques to call simple customer service and tech support staff, convincing them to hand over sensitive data like passwords and authentication details. Before long, accounts like Elon Musk and Barack Obama were compromised, tweeting Bitcoin scams to millions of people. Across the world, ordinary workers have encountered similar scams, often via innocent-looking emails, and when workers are away from the office, they tend to click on dangerous emails regularly. Ransomware attacks on businesses via home workers. During the COVID-19 pandemic, ransomware has experienced a golden age. In the USA alone, ransomware victims paid out around $350 million in 2020, a 311% rise in 2019. Experts point to home working as a critical factor in that rise. The Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack in May 2021, which compromised 45% of the eastern seaboard fuel supply, was traced to remote workers' out-of-date VPN. Other attacks have used simple emails to hook remote workers, and the phenomenon has been spurred on by the rise of cryptocurrency, making payments to attackers far easier. Fatigue and declining attention to cybersecurity. According to the UK's Office for National Statistics, those working from home add 5 hours to their working weeks. The Society for Human Resources Management has also found that 35% of homeworkers report feeling tired and lacking energy, probably due to their workload, although pandemic stress could have played a part. Job insecurity can also compromise cybersecurity in ways that aren't always obvious to companies. For instance, according to a survey by Deloitte, 26% of respondents reported that they had considered making copies of sensitive corporate documents as a precaution. If they fear dismissal, employees can lose sight of core security practices. Physical security and environmental controls. Security is crucial to any office or facility, but understanding how to get started in this field can be difficult, to say the least. Even in small spaces, there can be dozens, if not hundreds, of moving parts that can confuse even the most seasoned business professional. Deciding how to protect your business and its assets can be a process that seems nearly impossible at first. But with the right tips and tricks, anyone can become an expert on physical security, no matter how lost you might feel at first. You can make the most of your skills to implement an effective plan and better protect your assets and data. Use this list to better understand physical security and to implement its best practices into your space. Physical security. This part is simple, at least. Every building needs a way to keep unwanted guests outside, and most organizations also need to restrict access to certain areas within their premises, even to people who have already been invited inside. Because of this, you need to adopt a set of security measures with which to grant access to protected amenities to authorized personnel only, ones who have been handpicked for this privilege. These security measures should be introduced in accordance with a broader plan designed to protect your equipment, resources, and any other assets within a production facility or office space. All these measures, working in tandem, make up your physical security strategy. The best, most viable physical security strategies make use of both technology and specialized hardware to achieve its safety goals. You'll need to protect your assets from intruders, internal threats, cyber attacks, accidents, and natural disasters, which in turn requires a mix of technology and in-person monitoring that requires careful planning and placement of security staff and other tactics. For your preventive measures and countermeasures to be effective, you also need to introduce a security perimeter, the size and scope of which may vary depending on your specific needs and possible threats to your facility. Physical security bundles many needs together, so make sure that you consider your space as a whole, not as separate parts. While much of the onus to create a safe space for employees and to protect office assets is on the employers themselves, office employees can contribute significantly to ensure that existing security measures are successful. Employers can only put certain provisions in place, but it depends on the staff to follow them accordingly and proceed carefully to protect both the company and themselves. As an employee, it is up to you to safeguard yourself however it is possible, and to ensure that the company's information and assets are protected too. 1. Take care of your belongings, particularly hardware and/or paper copies containing important or sensitive information. This sounds simple enough, but it's easy to overlook such details and accidentally lose privy information. Loss of data is not just dangerous, it is also extremely inconvenient. Make sure you lock your things up safely before leaving for the day. If you go out for your lunch break, you may want to lock up before that as well. 2. Participate actively in disaster management drills and safety procedures like mock fire drills. Most of us live in the complacent mindset, assuming that such disasters as fires and earthquakes will never happen at the workplace, as it is unlikely. But we must be prepared, just in case. 3. Keep track of training workshops and courses offered by the company to keep you up to date with security practices at the workplace, for example, cybersecurity and physical security workshops. If workshops are not organized by your company, you may want to request the same from your manager. 4. If you are at manager level, it is advisable to discuss with other managers and come up with a contingency plan. In the event that there is any sort of disaster, this plan will help as everyone will know exactly what to do and can proceed in a more organized and orderly fashion. 5. Being able to protect yourself and possibly help save others' lives in a threatening situation. Ask for self-defense classes and first aid training camps to be organized by the company, and if that does not come through, consider taking such classes up personally or with a group of colleagues outside office. 6. When you move in or out of office, ensure that you carry your identification card or employee ID card with you. This will help in maintaining tight security, which is otherwise often disrupted by employees forgetting their cards and insisting on being allowed inside. 7. If you work as a manager, it is your duty to ensure that the employees you are responsible for are trained adequately when it comes to security procedures. They should be aware of the best security practices to follow, and you may test them on these practices from time to time. 8. Remain alert at all times. Report any suspicious instances to higher authorities and security personnel, such as unknown people trying to gain entry into the office premises, unannounced repair work being done suddenly, and so on. Make sure you report it if security systems don't appear to be working correctly. If you yourself are in a security position, do not let unauthorized persons enter the premises. 9. If you work late hours at the office when fewer people are around, try to have a fellow employee with you at all times, such as when heading out for a break or going into different parts of the office which may not be populated. Carry a pepper spray around if you enter or leave office after dark to protect yourself. 10. A large part of physical security is concerned with protection of employees from violence at the workplace. Every company has a policy related to such violence, explaining what comprises of workplace violence and how to report it. Keep the violence policy in mind and look out for yourself as well as others. 11. If you notice that any of your office equipment, such as hardware, drives, etc., are missing, be sure to let authorities know immediately. Even if there was no important information to your knowledge in such devices, notify the concerned persons of missing equipment. Both the IT department and security will want to be notified of such theft, so do notify them if it occurs. 12. Be very careful about divulging company information to outsiders or sources that seem the slightest bit suspicious. Be cautious of opening emails that look strange, and if you have doubts, check personally with the person who has sent the email. If it's an unknown mail address, it may be better not to click on it, as it could be a virus or scam. Similarly, don't be liberal with confidential information over the phone. 13. Apart from diligently attending fire safety drills and familiarizing yourself with emergency exits and routes, take precautions so that the likelihood of fire is lowered. For example, make sure you switch off and unplug wherever needed, whatever electronic equipment you use. Switch off your computer and unplug accessories such as chargers. 14. If you are in security, it is important to recognize threats that are posed by insiders in the office. Often it is not intruders from outside the office space who present physical security threats. Sometimes there are employees who are resentful about something in the organization and are hence looking for ways to sabotage. Be wary of such threats, and if you are not in security, do report any suspicious behavior among other employees. 15. Password protection is another important security measure you must take when you are at work. Be sure to never leave your phone, laptop, or desktop unlocked, as anyone may access these devices and gain hold of your private information or the company's data. Always ensure that your devices are protected by a strong password. If you have a habit of forgetting passwords, keep them relatable and don't leave them written down anywhere near the desk space. 16. Disaster prevention and mitigation are sound measures to take in advance. However, if you are at manager level, disaster recovery is equally important. Get together with other managers to draft a robust disaster recovery policy, such as recovery of data in case a fire breaks out in the office or computer systems are damaged. 17. To ensure that data is protected, remember to dispose of papers safely. It is often a habit to throw away paperwork once it is not required anymore, but the information on that paper can be misused by malicious sources. Use the shredder to make sure that no one can access the information. 18. This might seem elementary, but remember to store backups. To be safe, make multiple copies of important documents and store in different locations. If you have something on a flash drive, ensure that this data is present elsewhere too, in case this one is lost or corrupted at some point. 19. Whenever any important communication is sent out, make sure you discuss it with the people involved beforehand so that everything is clear. Ensure that there is no chance of lost or misplaced information. Be careful about emailing people who are not in your contacts. 20. Apart from keeping backups, knowing how and where to keep those backups is also crucial. Backups are also open to theft and misuse, so be sure to keep backups in safely locked and secure locations. Lock drawers and cabinets containing physical backups. 21. Employees in charge of IT will want to make sure that there are strong firewalls in place to keep out online intruders and protect the employees' information, and that networks are strongly protected with a set of passwords and access points. 22. IT employees should additionally ensure that once an employee exits the organization, his or her email account and other databases should be locked down and suspended completely to avoid malicious sources hacking into them. 23. Physical security has many aspects, and one of them is the well-being of employees. Sometimes an employee might be coming down with an infectious illness, and it is up to fellow employees to take note for the well-being of the employee, as well as to avoid the spread of contagion. 24. As mentioned before, sometimes threat to security comes from insiders in the organization. This is not just with respect to damaging equipment. Be wary of other people who stare at your computer screen as they pass by while you are doing something important. Don't share information unless you are authorized to do so with that particular person. 25. Last but not the least, when it comes to private information, protect not just your own confidential information, also safeguard the information of other employees. Don't give out phone numbers and other credentials you may have of your coworkers without their permission. Though many attacks are likely to be digital, protecting sensitive physical documents is critical to your company's security system. Furthermore, unattended papers, computers, and passwords pose a security concern. Security awareness isn't just about what resides in your company's computers or handheld devices. Employees should be aware of potential security risks in physical aspects of the workplace, such as visitors or new hires watching as employees type in passwords, known as shoulder surfing. Letting in visitors claiming to be inspectors, exterminators, or other uncommon guests who might be looking to get into the system, called impersonation. Allowing someone to follow you through a door into a restricted area, called tailgating. Leaving passwords on pieces of paper on one's desk. Leaving one's computer on and not password protected when leaving work for the night. Leaving an office-issued phone or device out in plain sight. And physical security controls, doors, locks, and so on, malfunctioning. Social networking dangers. Enterprises use social networking as a powerful tool to build a brand, either locally or globally, and generate online sales. Unfortunately, cybercriminals also use social media for attacks that put an organization's systems and reputation at risk. To prevent the loss of critical data, the enterprise must have a viable social networking training program that should limit the use of social networking and inform employees of the threats of social media. Phishing attacks can occur on social media as well as over email. Cybercriminals impersonating trusted brands can steal data or push malware. Information published on social media can be used to craft spear phishing emails. We all post pictures of our events, holidays, and jobs on social media. However, oversharing might expose important information that can allow a hostile actor to pose as a trusted source through social engineering. Cybercriminals know that people at work check their social media accounts throughout the day, and this increases the risk of workplace hacks and malware attacks, says Darren Hockley. It's easy to think of social media as a fun, informal space where we can relax and be ourselves. Even when used for business promotion, social media remains a place to engage with people, share information and ideas, and post newsworthy pictures. It's partly because of the innocuous, cooperative nature of social media, and partly because we tend to trust our connections on the platforms as our friends, that social media platforms have become something of a hunting ground for cybercriminals. Think about it. It's not often that we hesitate to click on an interesting-looking post or direct message sent by one of our connections. Why would we? Often we'll even entertain posts made by friends of friends. But how do we know these people don't have ulterior motives? How do we know they are who they say they are? Cybercriminals know that people at work tend to check their social media accounts from time to time throughout the day, many using company-owned PCs and mobile devices. Most organizations don't mind the practice, so long as it happens at break times. However, connecting with the wrong person or clicking on a malicious file or link while at work could cause problems for the entire business network. It's not at all unheard of for cybercriminals to target specific companies through their employees, many of whom list their place of work in their bio or About Me section on social media. Furthermore, it only takes one employee to connect to an unknown user for others to follow suit. After all, this person appears to know someone that you know. Since awareness training is a key element when it comes to mitigating the risk of a data breach, below we outline some of the top risks social media users should remain aware of. Common social media security threats. Phishing scams. Phishing is a form of fraud meant to trick victims into divulging valuable personal data. It works by cybercriminals impersonating someone they are not, such as a friend or an organization, and convincing victims to share information. A common phishing tactic on social media is fake customer service accounts, asking users to verify their identity or claiming users' accounts are under attack and must be reset in some way. Of course, this always involves users sharing their login information with the criminal. Another tactic to look out for on social media, as on any website, is the use of fake URLs or posts that direct users to malicious websites. These sites may mirror very closely the login page of their social media platform or otherwise prompt for information in return for seeing the post they originally clicked on. In both these cases, people that reuse social media passwords for things like email accounts, work PCs, and online banking could find themselves in serious trouble if they fall for the con. Malware. Malware, or malicious software, are programs or files that are in some way harmful. It includes the likes of spyware, Trojan horses, and other computer viruses. Most online threats come in the form of malware, and unfortunately, the easily accessible nature of social media means it's something of a gateway for it. Malicious links may take users to legitimate but infected websites, or else to entirely fake yet legitimate-looking websites that prompt for or surreptitiously begin malware downloads. Indeed, Mark Birmingham, Director of Global B2B Marketing at Kaspersky Lab, recently told PCWorld.com to expect an increase in waterhole attacks stemming from social media use. The goal of a waterhole attack is to infect the unsuspecting user's computer with malware and in this way access the user's workplace computer network. Users should also be wary of clicking on unsolicited links and file attachments sent in direct messages and those left in comment sections of usually popular posts. Cloning or impersonation. Different from hacking or hijacking, cloning is a technique used by cybercriminals to copy a person's social media profile page. This is particularly easy to instigate if a person's page information is set to public. Photos, date of birth, place of work, etc. can all be copied across to the faux profile, which is then used to send new friend requests to those on the victim's friends list. In all probability, at least a couple of these friends will accept the request, thinking it comes from the person they know. Once the scammer has enough friends to establish an air of legitimacy, they are likely to send scam messages or malware in the name of their victim in hopes their friends or colleagues will trustingly click on it. They might also use the victim's friendship with people to harvest personal information, putting them at risk of identity theft. Third-party apps. We're likely all guilty of using our social media profile to log into third-party apps. It's just so much more convenient than dreaming up a new password for each application or account we wish to use. We don't, however, consider the price of convenience all that often, which usually comes in the form of data. It's down to the user to check what information the app is asking to access and what they say they will do with it. That is, are they asking for permission to sell or share it? If you find the possibility of giving strangers access to your personal data unsettling, it's probably best not to link your account to third-party applications. Mobile devices. Using social media on mobile devices may not seem like a risky habit. After all, we all do it. But the danger here lies with the loss or theft of your device, be it a personal or a work-owned one. Obviously, your device, especially if not password or fingerprint protected, is a virtual treasure trove of information and auto-logged-in accounts, including payment apps and password managers. Not to mention any confidential work or personal information recorded on the device. In the wrong hands, your mobile device could be used to victimize yourself and target your contact list. Due to the risk of malware mentioned above, it's also inadvisable to use work mobile devices to access personal social media accounts. Clicking on the wrong link could provide a backdoor into all sorts of company systems and databases. User beware. Secure mobile devices. Mobile security in 2022. What to expect and how to prepare. This past year was one of the most fruitful years in terms of cyber attacks. In fact, the number of data breaches through September of 2021 exceeded the total number of successful cyber attacks by 17% compared to 2020. Having that in mind, security leaders have the responsibility to look back at the past 12 months, analyze the biggest cyber incidents, and apply the lessons learned into security strategies for the next year, specifically with a focus on mobile security, which has historically been seen as a lower priority than desktop security. Without further ado, let's start by going through the incidents of 2021 before discussing the biggest risks security leaders will face this year. Somewhat unsurprisingly, the biggest cyber attacks in 2021 happened after the main protectors of the year had been compromised, the password and SMS one-time password, or OTP, for two-factor authentication, 2FA. Last year, the world erupted with the news of the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack, where the hackers took down the largest fuel pipeline in the U.S., leading to shortages on the East Coast. Security leaders may assume that only the best of hackers could achieve a hack of this magnitude, but they would be thinking wrong. This cyber attack was caused by a single compromised password, one which has since been discovered in a data leak on the dark web. A Colonial employee may have reused the password on another account that had been previously hacked. A malpractice omnipresent today due to the hassle that is the management of tens of different passwords. In fact, 66% of digital users always or mostly use the same password or variation across websites. Now add to that the fact that this employee wasn't using any type of multi-factor authentication, and it's clear why the attack was pulled off easily. Any type of multi-factor authentication, including two-factor authentication, adds significantly more security to business accounts. But if an enterprise security team has the possibility to add an additional factor that isn't SMS OTP 2FA, then that's what the security leaders should choose. The other biggest incident this year, the Coinbase hack, happened due to flaws in the company's SMS 2FA system. In this attack, cybercriminals managed to steal cryptocurrency from approximately 6,000 Coinbase customers. To take over an account via SMS 2FA, the cybercriminal needed to know the user's account email address, password, and phone number. As to where this data came from, possibilities could include a past data breach or phishing campaign that Coinbase said targeted their users between April and early May 2021. The company attributes the hack to a flaw in their SMS account recovery protocol, and while they did not specify the flaw, cybersecurity professionals have to be aware of the inherent flaws SMS 2FA comes with. To start with, SMS uses the SS7 switching protocol that hasn't changed since 1975 when SMS was originally introduced. It's a design flaw that criminals can exploit to reroute or intercept the SMS containing your one-time password. On top of that, SMS 2FA comes with the risk of SIM swapping, a hack in which fraudsters use personal information such as first and last names, social security number, dates of birth, and more to trick mobile network operators and take control of SIM cards. This may sound like a stretch, but 80% of all SIM swap attacks are successful. Finally, in 2021, security leaders have also seen a rise in OTP interception bots, which are designed to help cybercriminals easily intercept OTPs. When bots get into the game, the risk of the huge scale this hack could take on is unacceptable. All that being said, cybersecurity professionals have to ask themselves whether 2022 is the year they finally decide to retire these two authentication methods. Mobile devices face network attacks. Most organizations have experienced a mobile malware attack last year, and 93% of them began in a device network. The most common types of malicious network traffic from mobile devices include phishing messages designed to steal credentials, 52%, command and control traffic from malware on a device, 25%, browsing to infected websites or URLs, 23%. Malicious mobile apps are a growing threat. Malware has always been a major cyber threat, but with the growth of remote work and bring-your-own-device BYOD policies, cybercriminals are increasingly targeting mobile devices. Last year, nearly half of companies, 46%, experienced a security incident in which an employee downloaded a malicious mobile application. Some of the most common forms of mobile malware include banking Trojans, mobile remote access Trojans, or MRATs, malware droppers, premium dialers, clickers. Legitimate apps are vulnerable to attack. In addition to malicious mobile applications, organizations also face cybersecurity threats from legitimate mobile apps. In 2020, several of the major social media applications, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, experienced major vulnerabilities. Also, the Google Play Core Library, which links applications to the Google Play Store, had a remote code execution, or RCE, vulnerability. About 8% of Google Play applications were exploited using this vulnerability. Hardware vulnerabilities undermine security. The mobile applications running on a mobile device operate under the assumption that the underlying hardware is secure and operational. However, Checkpoint research has found that at least 40% of mobile devices contain hardware vulnerabilities. These low-level vulnerabilities can have a variety of impacts on a mobile device and its users, including breaches of sensitive data, photos, videos, calls, location, etc., denial of service or DOS attacks, malware installation and persistence. Cybercriminals exploit mobile device management. Mobile device management, or MDM, solutions are designed to allow an organization to centrally control all of the mobile devices within its network. While this can be an asset, it can also be a liability for an organization. In 2020, cybercriminals have begun regularly targeting MDM solutions in their attacks. By exploiting an MDM controller, they gain control over all of the systems managed by that device. Safe web browsing. The Internet is beneficial when it comes to many aspects of our lives, like ordering products and learning new things. However, web browsing can come with cybersecurity risks. By 2020, the number of data breaches increased by over 1,000, and data leaks peaked to 156 million reports. Some of the causes included security vulnerabilities, malware, and data error. The risks can be challenging to avoid, as many people work from home and use digital services more often. Home connections can be less secure, and people may not be aware of the third-party tool's security levels. Don't worry, it's possible to prevent the risks if you practice safe web browsing methods mentioned in this article. We'll show you several tips and tools to help you become much safer while using the Internet. 1. Pay attention to the site you visit. Not all websites are safe. For example, a website with a "your connection is not private" message may be unreliable and cause security issues, such as data theft. This can happen because your browser can't verify the website's SSL certificate. It refers to a digital certificate that proves a website's security and encrypts the information between the website and the user. This means unwanted third parties can't interrupt the communication and see the data being transferred. A website's URL with an SSL certificate begins with HTTPS, not HTTP. What you'll see is something like https://www.youtube.com. It also has the padlock icon before the URL. To make sure you visit a safe website, it may be necessary to install an extension like Web of Trust. It will display a safety score of a website based on its user base's reviews and give you a real-time alert when you visit dangerous sites. 2. Keep the browser updated. Hackers often seek web browsers' vulnerabilities to attack the users. Therefore, web browser companies launch regular updates to fix these vulnerabilities. By keeping your browser updated, your device can get the latest security version and prevent hackers from attacking it. Luckily, major web browsers like Chrome and Firefox offer automatic updates to ensure safe web browsing, so you don't have to check for them manually. 3. Be careful about hyperlinks and ads. Harmful hyperlinks and ads may lead Internet users to a phishing site or forcefully install software that can cause a data breach. Therefore, it's essential to check whether the URL links lead to the correct domain. One way to do this is by hovering over the text link and seeing the preview at the bottom corner of your browser. If the link uses a shortened URL, check its destination URL first, using tools like Check Short URL and unshorten.it. To protect yourself from annoying ads, installing ad blockers can be helpful. However, many ad-driven sites like CNET and Wired don't allow ad-block users to access their websites. In this case, consider adding them to a whitelist. 4. Use a secure Internet connection. 24.7% of global Wi-Fi hotspots don't apply any encryption at all, meaning hackers can intercept the network traffic, distribute malware, and access data on users' devices. Some online criminals even build a clone network to trap users and hack their computers. To prevent cyber attacks, try to avoid using public Wi-Fi and use your mobile data instead. If you have no choice, make sure to enable the Always Use HTTPS option on your web browser. To do this, install an extension like HTTPS Everywhere. Also, consider turning off file sharing from your computer's control panel or system preferences. This can help prevent wireless access from accessing your computer's files. 5. Use VPN for safe web browsing. Virtual proxy networks, or VPN, can help maintain users' privacy because it encrypts your data before sending you to a website. As a result, the website, internet providers, and advertisers can't track your internet activities. As VPN creates an additional step in the loading process, it may decrease your internet speed. 6. Install antivirus software. Antivirus software helps protect your device because it offers various security features like firewall, spyware, and identity protection, and VPN. Some of the reputable antivirus software even integrate AI and big data to detect attacks. Some best antivirus software includes McAfee Antivirus Plus and Bitdefender Antivirus Plus. They offer frequent updates and fundamental features with affordable subscriptions. However, a free option like Kaspersky Free Antivirus can be helpful if you're on a tight budget. 7. Block pop-ups. Browser pop-ups can appear when you open a website. They can be dangerous for your browsing experience because they may contain ads, harmful links, and inappropriate content. Popular web browsers like Chrome automatically block pop-ups. To indicate that action, the address bar will show a pop-up blocked icon. However, you can also choose to allow pop-ups. There are 2 possible reasons if you still get pop-ups even after blocking them. You may have subscribed to receive notifications from a particular site, or malware has infected your phone or computer. 8. Clean web browser cookies and cache. Cookies are files stored on your devices that save your browsing data, such as dark mode settings and login details. Meanwhile, the cache helps open websites faster during a following visit, as it remembers certain elements of the website. Deleting cookies and cache may be necessary to access the most recent changes on a website. If you keep the cached version, you may face issues like links missing on a page. Cleaning cookies and cache in browsers are pretty straightforward. Go to the settings and look for a tool for clearing browser history. Some browsers also give you an option to clear the cache automatically. 9. Use two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication provides additional security to the sign-in process. It connects your browser usage and the physical location you usually log in from. If a person signs into your account from another area, the browser will alert you and ask for your confirmation. It can be via email, instant message, or pop-up on another device connected to the same account. So it's still possible to prevent someone from logging in, even though they may know your password. To turn on two-factor authentication in Chrome, open your Google account, then click Security in the left-hand navigation. In the Signing into Google section, select Two-Step Verification. You should see some methods for your second step, such as Google prompts and text messages. After choosing the second step, hit the Get Started button. 10. Turn on private browsing. Private browsing, or incognito mode, can help keep your internet activity private from other people that use the same device. Once you exit the private windows, a web browser doesn't save your browsing history, cookies, and the information you entered in forms. Some browsers even provide tracking protection to hide your location when using the private mode. To activate this feature on Chrome, click 3 vertical dots on the right corner and choose the New Incognito window. If you use Safari, select File on the menu bar to create a new private window. 11. Create strong passwords. Weak passwords often put people at risk. In fact, 80% of data breaches happened due to stolen and weak passwords, like 123456 and password. They're easy to guess, so hackers can crack them quickly. Follow these tips for creating strong passwords. Make passwords unique. Use different passwords for important accounts, like online banking and email. Make passwords longer and memorable. Good passwords have at least 12 characters. Consider using a lyric from a poem or a meaningful quote. Avoid using personal info. Examples are your nickname, pet's name, and birthday. To remember strong passwords, use a password manager. 12. Bookmark important websites. A bookmark refers to a placeholder in a web's browser toolbar that saves a URL address. It gives you quick access to a page and helps prevent typos when typing the URL. To bookmark a website on Chrome, simply click the Start icon on the URL bar and choose Add Bookmark. Your bookmarks are automatically synced on other devices that use the same Google account. It's also possible to create folders to categorize your bookmarks. Conclusion. Cyber threats on the Internet, like spyware and phishing websites, can result in bad consequences. For instance, Hackers can steal the user's sensitive data, such as social security numbers and credit card information. Here are some best practices to prevent those risks. Be careful with the websites you visit. Update your antivirus software and web browser regularly. Pay attention to hyperlinks, ads, and pop-ups. Avoid using public Wi-Fi. Install VPN on your devices. Use two-factor authentication. Clear cache and cookies. Enable private browsing or incognito mode. Create complex passwords. And bookmark most visited websites. Security Training Essentials Overview. Below, we will walk you again through talking points that we have covered in your security awareness training. In addition to these points, we've also included a few real-world scenarios that describe how threat actors use some of these attack vectors to their advantage. By doing so, we hope to illustrate the need in covering many of these talking points and to provide you with real-world examples that you can share with your employees. This can be an effective way to teach them what to look out for and to help them understand the realities of why they need to take security seriously. Identities. Identities are the number one attack vector, so it's imperative that your employees understand how to protect them. Remind them that their passwords need to be as long and complex as possible, as well as impossible to guess. Passwords should never be reused or shared, and multi-factor analysis should be enabled wherever possible. Lastly, inform your employees that they should never change a password via an email. An exception to this is a password reset email that they without a doubt requested themselves. If they know their password and they need to change it, they should always navigate to the actual site and change it there. Email. Inform employees of any security measures required for email. We'd recommend requiring multi-factor analysis and emphasizing to your employees that email is at the center of the organization's authentication space. As such, it would be catastrophic if they lost control over their email account. If they ever do, let them know they should immediately contact whoever is responsible for security or IT. Additionally, stress the importance of taking a few seconds to critically think through why they are receiving an email. For example, they could make a habit of running through some of these questions. Does this email make sense? Did I click a link asking for this email? Did I ask someone, a team member or a customer, to send me this? Did I engage with the website to send me marketing emails? When possible, a good rule of thumb to follow is that if anybody receives an email from a site that is requesting some sort of action to be taken, they should manually type in the site address in their browser and navigate to the site that way. Generally, they should learn to distrust that an email is from who it claims to be. Lastly, they should know to not open attachments from emails they're not expecting to receive. Hook, line, and fished. True story. One afternoon, an accountant in an organization received an email from an individual claiming to have paid a late invoice. All the accountant needed to do to claim the payment was to click a link and provide their email credentials, which they did. Yep, they had gotten phished. And once the attacker got their hands on those email credentials, they logged into the accountant's email and studied the organization's wire transfer approval process by searching through emails. The attacker then used previously sent invoices and forms to fabricate an approval email chain that the attacker then sent to the wire transfers department. Suffice to say, the attacker walked away with a lucrative sum of money. Moral of the story. Email is a goldmine of information and at the center of authentication in any organization. Once those credentials are stolen, the sky's the limit for attackers. Require and use multi-factor analysis, or MFA, whenever possible. If MFA had been required on email in the story above, this incident could have been prevented. If you read the full story, you'll find out that the organization relied heavily on tools to block fishy URLs on the corporate network. However, the accountant was on their home network when they received the phishing email and consequently out of reach from the URL blocking tools. If they aren't the main line of defense, your employees will be the last stand against an attacker. So that's why employee education is just as important as security technology. Work devices. Next, make sure to talk to your employees about how they can secure their work system. Inform them that they should only do company work on company machines. In other words, they should limit the amount of personal activity on their work device, and they should never access work on their personal device. The more you say it, the sooner they'll get it down. They should know that full disk encryption, or FDE, and antivirus software are required, and they should do their best to avoid losing their laptop. In the event that they do lose their laptop, make sure they know how to contact the security team and that they should do so right away in the event they lose their laptop. If there isn't a security team, let them know who to contact and how to contact them, whether that's an IT admin, your MSP, or another individual in your organization. Where possible, multi-factor authentication should be enabled on their work system. Additionally, you might want to let them know about the system policies that are in place on their devices if you have set some, and that they should not try to subvert these security measures. Remind them to always lock their computer when they leave it unattended, even if it's just to get a coffee refill in the kitchen. They should never insert flash drives of unknown origins. If your organization provides employees with laptops, let them know they should bring their laptop home each night because it's best to minimize who has physical access to their device. The office. Remind employees of the physical security that is in place in your office, like cameras. If your office requires a key or a fob for entry, let them know that there should be no tailgating. We don't mean in the parking lot before the big game, but rather a stranger sneaking in as the door closes. Also, inform them that they should erase content on whiteboards when they're done. When they print sensitive information, let them know they should retrieve it immediately and be sure to shred it once they no longer need it. It's a good idea to set the tone for what to do about visitors, too. For example, when they notice a visitor, should they feel free to question them? Where can they direct visitors to wait? Having firm answers to these questions can help employees be proactive in case of an intruder. Leave no stone unturned. True story. One particular organization had strong systems in place to offboard ex-employees from digital IT resources. However, they weren't always so prompt in deprovisioning building access credentials. Then one day, a disgruntled ex-employee used this security weakness to their advantage to exact revenge. Using their still-yet-to-be-disabled building access card, they entered the building and then was able to gain entry into a room with an unlocked work system. They plugged a USB flash drive into the machine and had plans to steal and expose sensitive data. Luckily, forensic analysis alerted the company to the malicious activity, and they were able to put a stop to it before the ex-employee was successful. Moral of the story: not only is it important to immediately terminate a fired employee's network access, but their office access as well. This story also demonstrates why it's important to enforce certain system policies like those that enforce screen lock and disable USB drives. They can help prevent malicious activity on work devices. Intellectual property and data, Audio 15. Security awareness training is also a good time to clarify your rules around intellectual property. Your employees should know what is considered company property and what the rules are for storing it. Also, establish general rules regarding what they can or can't talk about with non-company personnel. Along the same lines, you should consider going over how to secure data. Ideally, you should have rules in place about where employees should and should not store sensitive company data. If your organization utilizes cloud productivity platforms like G Suite or Office 365, warn your employees to be mindful of who they grant permission to access these files and folders, and that it's best to share files and folders on an individual basis where possible. Also, advise employees to password protect data files where it makes sense, or to place those files in folders with strict access controls. When data is sent via email, they should assume it is compromised the moment it is sent, and they should always know what, to whom, and why something is being sent. Warn employees to be mindful about logging into an account in a public area, like Starbucks or while riding the bus. They especially need to be wary of someone peering over their shoulder because this is an easy way for someone to steal credentials. Public Wi-Fi. Speaking of public areas, let them know that they should avoid using public Wi-Fi at all costs and only use it when they absolutely need to. While public Wi-Fi can be extremely convenient, it can also be one of the easiest ways to compromise a set of credentials and a device. Lay out for your employees that they're essentially ceding control of their network traffic over to whoever has access to the router. Some great questions to run through before connecting to public Wi-Fi are, do I trust the coffee shop I'm at to also be experts in network security? Do I trust that nobody has tampered with the router? Do I trust that the router has been updated recently? Would I have an intimate conversation with, say, my tax lawyer in a crowded coffee shop? If no, then it's probably not the best idea to conduct online banking over the Wi-Fi either. It ultimately comes down to one's risk model and what you're comfortable exposing, but public Wi-Fi fundamentally is an insecure method of communication. When in dire need for the Internet, some alternative methods to public Wi-Fi include using mobile data to do something on their phone or to create a mobile hotspot. For the times that's not an option and they need to take that risk, a VPN, virtual private network, can help mitigate some of that risk, but not all. Lastly, security training is a great time to also notify them of any company rules you have about company Wi-Fi. For example, if there are certain networks they should or shouldn't connect their phone to. A night with the dark hotel. True story. The world learned of an advanced hacking group called the Dark Hotel. They have since moved on to other types of attacks, but they were initially known for taking over Wi-Fi networks in popular hotels across Southeast Asia. They typically targeted traveling businessmen staying at those hotels. Their main method of attack was to deliver fake software updates for applications over the public Wi-Fi to the person's device. If the target fell for it, the hacking group was able to steal work data from the device and use it to compromise the company the employee worked for. Moral of the story. Whether it's for personal use or work, it's best to simply avoid using public Wi-Fi altogether. You just don't know who's listening or what creative attacking methods could find you. This story also shows the prudence of limiting who has access to what. Stolen data from a work laptop could be merely an annoyance, not a catastrophe, if the right access controls are in place. Browsers and phones. Implore your users to leverage a secure browser like Chrome, to only use plugins that have a true business need, and to stick to websites that use HTTPS. However, it's a good idea to let them know that many phishing websites now use HTTPS, so they shouldn't solely rely on that lock icon to determine whether or not a website is safe. It never hurts to double-check, for example, that they are in fact on Google.com and not on GO0GLE.com. Lastly, they should listen when their browser warns them about entering a website. This is often a sign that something is off. Let your employees know that they should protect their phone with a password or PIN, and they should have it set to be wiped after a certain number of incorrect attempts. After all, more than likely their personal email is on their phone, if not their work email as well, and they can end up losing everything if their phone is not secure. They should enable remote wipe in case they lose their phone, and they should also make sure to update their phone with the latest patches whenever they become available. Secure interactions with public and social networking. Educate employees about secure practices when interacting with the public online. For example, they should always know who they're talking to. If someone initiates contact with them, they should never give out information in this situation. The initiator should already have all of the information they need, so it should be an immediate red flag if the initiator requests more. They will be targeted with these kinds of social engineering attacks, so a good rule of thumb to share with them is this. If someone needs an immediate answer, the answer is no. Lastly, to reiterate, make sure your employees know your policies related to sharing private information. When it comes to social networking, remind personnel to use good judgment and watch out for malicious links. Alert them that they can expect to be targeted because of their connection with the company. The odds are in everybody's favor. True story. Some time ago, the IT help desk at an organization received a frantic call from a senior executive claiming they needed help remembering their username for their email. The IT help desk walked through the security challenge questions. The caller paused and answered hesitantly. They got the answer correct, and the caller was provided with the username. A couple days later, the IT help desk received another call from the same senior executive. The caller needed help installing a VPN client, and they provided the IT help desk with their name, title, and username. Since the caller provided the username, the IT help desk skipped the security questions and went straight to helping the caller install a VPN client. At the end, the caller said they forgot their password. Unfortunately, the IT help desk was eager to help, so they reset the password for the caller, granting them full access to the senior executive's email account. Moral of the story: this is a great reminder that anybody can fall victim to a social engineering attack, so it's important to have security awareness training for all of your employees, whether they are technical or not. Everyone is a target because of their connection with your workplace, and it's important to regularly reinforce to all employees that it's essential that they personally uphold best practices for security every day. This is another scenario where MFA could have made a big difference in preventing the attacker from gaining access to the senior executive's email account. What to do when there's a problem? Finally, a great way to end a security training session is by setting the expectation of what will happen should they make a mistake or encounter a problem, and how to contact the security team when that occurs. It's important to ensure that everyone in the company won't feel scared to admit they made a mistake and act in the right way to mitigate it. Intermediate module. This module includes in-depth details on how to learn new ways of protections and enhance your knowledge in cybersecurity area with all its aspects. With information in this module, we want not only to refresh your knowledge for the first main part, but also to go deeper in cybersecurity specialties and terms to help you understand more about cyber threats, malware activities, mobile, cloud, and personal security, hack mechanisms, and most important, how to protect yourself from them. The module will include more technical details, real live configuration examples, and information to help you get your IT knowledge to the next level. Before you start, please be informed that this module is not only for persons with technical backgrounds. It is organized to be understandable for all, and it will help all kinds of viewers to be more prepared for everyday life in the constantly changing cybersecurity world. If you want to learn new ways of protection for your business and personal accounts, how home networks should be secured, and if you want to learn how attackers think, this part is for you. Before we go further, we will have to understand some of the basic terms and areas and technology names in cybersecurity. To be able to understand cybersecurity aspects, it is essential also to know about the areas of specialization in it. There are 9 main specializations. 1. Access control systems and methodology. This deals with protecting critical system resources from unauthorized modification. 2. Telecommunications and network security. This focuses on communications, protocols, and network services, and the potential vulnerabilities associated with each. 3. Security management practices. This area deals effectively with catastrophic systems failures, natural disasters, and other types of service interruptions. 4. Security architecture and models. This focuses mostly on having security policies and procedures in place. This particular security domain involves policy planning for just about every type of security issue. 5. Law, investigation, and ethics. This handles the legal issues associated with computer security. 6. Application and system development security. This covers things like database security models and the implementation of multi-level security for in-house applications. 7. Cryptography, designed to help you understand how and when to use encryption. 8. Computer operation security. This covers all those things that happen while your computers are running. 9. Physical security. This primarily addresses questions about physical access to your servers and workstations. Basic terminologies. Next up, this training will help you understand some of the terminologies you must be familiar with before learning anything about cybersecurity. 1. Network. A network is a connection between 2 or more computers so that they can communicate with each other. For example, 2. Internet. Internet is a means of connecting a computer to any other computer anywhere in the world via dedicated routers and servers. 3. Internet protocols. The data that is transferred or received cannot follow any path. There are a set of rules that are followed to control the flow of the Internet. These rules are called Internet protocols. 4. IP address. An Internet protocol address, IP address, is an address assigned to all devices that connect to a computer network and uses the Internet protocol for communication. An IP address looks like this: 168.192.10.3. 5. MAC address. This is a unique identification number that every device has that connects to the Internet. Traditional MAC addresses are 12-digit hexadecimal numbers. MAC addresses look like this: D8-F6-93-C5-A5-EO. 6. Domain Name Server, DNS. Consider DNS as the phone book of the Internet. All the IP addresses and the names of the links are saved in it. For example, you want to go to google.com. You type this on your web application. Then this name goes to the DNS server, and the DNS server finds the IP address of google.com. Then the DNS server returns it to your computer with the IP address. 7. DHCP. Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol is a protocol that assigns an IP address to any device that wants to connect to the Internet. 8. Router. This is a device that routes the data that comes to it and then sends that data to the destination to ensure that it is on the appropriate path. 9. Bots. Bots are computer programs that control your computer without your knowledge. They automatically send emails, retrieve web pages, and change computer settings. Now, as we understand the principles and basic terminologies, let's see what are the ones of the most important security awareness topics in 2022 and why. What are the most important security awareness training topics in 2022? Here is USecure's list of the most relevant cybersecurity awareness training topics for employees in 2022. 1. Removable media. Another security awareness topic that is used daily by companies is removable media. Removable media is the portable storage medium that allows users to copy data to the device and then remove it from the device to another, and vice versa. USB devices containing malware can be left for end users to find when they plug this into their device. Researchers dropped nearly 300 USB sticks on the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign campus. 98% of these drives were picked up. In addition, 45% of these drives were not only picked up, but individuals clicked on the files they found inside. As well as understanding the risks, your employees need to know how to use these devices safely and responsibly in your business. There are numerous reasons a company would decide to use removable media in their environment. However, with all technologies, there will always be potential risks. As well as the devices themselves, it is important your employees are protecting the data on these devices. Whether it's personal or corporate, all data has some form of value. A few common examples of removable media you and your employees might use in the workplace are USB sticks, SD cards, CDs, and smartphones. This security awareness topic should be included in your training and cover examples of removable media, why it's used in businesses, as well as how your employees can prevent the risks such as lost or stolen removable devices, malware infections, and copyright infringement. 2. Passwords and authentication. A very simple but often overlooked element that can help your company's security is password security. Often, commonly used passwords will be guessed by malicious actors in the hope of gaining access to your accounts. Using simple passwords or having recognizable password patterns for employees can make it simple for cybercriminals to access a large range of accounts. Once this information is stolen, it can be made public or sold for profit on the deep web. Implementing randomized passwords can make it much more difficult for malicious actors to gain access to a range of accounts. Other steps, such as two-factor authentication, provide extra layers of security that protect the integrity of the account. 3. Physical security. If you're one of those people who leave their passwords on sticky notes on their desk, you may want to throw them away. Though many attacks are likely to happen through digital mediums, keeping sensitive physical documents secured is vital to the integrity of your company's security system. Simple awareness of the risks of leaving documents, unattended computers, and passwords around the office space or home can reduce the security risk. By implementing a clean desk policy, the threat of unattended documents being stolen or copied can be significantly reduced. 4. Mobile device security. The changing landscape of IT technologies has improved the ability for flexible working environments, and along with it, more sophisticated security attacks. With many people now having the option to work on the go using mobile devices, this increased connectivity has come with the risk of security breaches. For smaller companies, this can be an effective way of saving budget. However, user device accountability is an increasingly relevant aspect of training in 2022, especially for traveling or remote workers. The advent of malicious mobile apps has increased the risk of mobile phones containing malware, which could potentially lead to a security breach. Best practice online courses for mobile device workers can help educate employees to avoid risks without high-cost security protocols. Mobile devices should always have sensitive information password protected, encrypted, or with biometric authentication in the event of the device being lost or stolen. The safe use of personal devices is necessary training for any employees who work on their own devices. Best community practice is making sure workers should have to sign a mobile security policy. 5. Working remotely. In 2021, the obvious need for remote working, combined with the increasing uptake, led to many companies taking drastic steps toward full-time working from home policies. Remote working can be positive for companies and empowering for employees, promoting increased productivity and greater work-life balance. This trend does, however, pose an increased threat to security breaches when not safely educated on the risks of remote working. Personal devices that are used for work purposes should remain locked when unattended and have antivirus software installed. If a company wants to offer this incentive, it should focus on educating remote employees on safe working practices. Going into 2022, it is likely that this trend will continue. Though we hope to see offices reopening and a return to normal working life, companies have increasingly hired remote workers, and those who have adapted to work-from-home lifestyle may prefer to work that way. The need to train employees to understand and manage their own cybersecurity is apparent. As we've seen, there is an increasing threat landscape targeting these individuals. Ensuring they keep security top of mind is a key theme of 2022. 6. Public Wi-Fi. Some employees who need to work remotely, traveling on trains and working on the move, may need extra training in understanding how to safely use public Wi-Fi services. Fake public Wi-Fi networks, often posing in coffee shops as free Wi-Fi, can leave end users vulnerable to entering information into non-secure public servers. Educating your users on the safe use of public Wi-Fi and the common signs to spot a potential scam will increase the company's awareness and minimize risk. Wired magazine provides a helpful guide on avoiding the risks of public Wi-Fi. 7. Cloud security. Cloud computing has revolutionized businesses, the way data is stored and accessed. These digital applications are transforming businesses. However, with large amounts of private data being stored remotely comes the risk of large-scale hacks. Many big companies are working on data protection, but by choosing the right cloud service provider, cloud storage can be a much safer and cost-effective way of storing your company's data. As with the other topics mentioned, insider hacking is much more of a threat than to large-scale cloud companies. Gartner predicts that by next year, 99% of all cloud security incidents will be the fault of the end user. Therefore, CyberSecurity Awareness training can help guide employees through the secure use of cloud-based applications. 8. Social media use. We all share large parts of our life on social media, from holidays to events and work. But oversharing can lead to sensitive information being available, making it easy for a malicious actor to pose as a trusted source. See social engineering. Educating employees on protecting the privacy settings of their social media accounts and preventing the spread of public information of your company will reduce the risk of the potential leverage that hackers can gain from this access to your personal network. 9. Internet and email use. Some employees may have already been exposed to data breaches by using simple or repeat emails from multiple accounts. One study found that 59% of end users use the same password for every account. This means that if one account is compromised, a hacker can use this password on work and social media accounts to gain access to all the user's information on these accounts. Often websites offer free software infected with malware. Downloaded applications from trusted sources only is the best way to protect your computer from installing any malicious software. Educating employees on safe Internet habits should be a key part of any IT induction. Though some may see this training as obvious, it is a key part of the safety of any security program. Many large websites have had large data breaches in recent years. If your information has been entered into these sites, it could have been made public and exposed your private information. 10. Social engineering. Social engineering is a common technique malicious actors use to gain the trust of employees, offering valuable lures or using impersonation to gain access to valuable personal information. Employees need to be educated on security awareness topics that cover the most common social engineering techniques and the psychology of influence. For instance, scarcity, urgency, and reciprocity, in order to combat these threats. For example, by posing as a viable client or offering incentives, private information can unwittingly be handed over to these malicious actors. Increasing employee awareness of the threat of these impersonations is critical in reducing the risk of social engineering. 11. Security at home. Unfortunately, the threat of malicious actors does not stop when you leave the workplace. Many companies allow their employees to use their personal devices, which is a great cost-saving method and allows flexible working. However, there are risks associated with this. Unwittingly, malware-downloaded applications on personal devices can risk the integrity of the company's network if, for example, login details are compromised. Additionally, the growing network of digital resources available to workers and companies has increased connectivity and productivity. However, these applications also pose a risk to the user. A study by Propeller found that phishing campaigns targeted to Dropbox had a 13.6% click-through rate. Increasing employee knowledge, sharing encrypted files, and authenticating downloads will reduce the risk. Other IT security awareness training topics. Alongside educating employees on security awareness training topics, as new regulations are imposed, compliance courses are increasingly necessary for employees. GDPR compliance in the EU has led to new regulations regarding email, which may require retraining for many employees. Breaching these rules can lead to heavy fines, most notably BA and Marriott hotels. Employees should also be aware of changing finance regulations, data protection, tax, and more. By enrolling in automated online platforms for policy management, you can keep your employees up to date with the latest changes in policy and make sure they stay in the know. Information security. Information security is not only about securing information from unauthorized access. Information security is basically the practice of preventing unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, inspection, recording, or destruction of information. Information can be physical or electronic. Information can be anything like your details, or we can say your profile on social media, your data in your mobile phone, your biometrics, etc. Thus, information security spans so many research areas like cryptography, mobile computing, cyber forensics, online social media, etc. During the First World War, multi-tier classification systems were developed keeping in mind sensitivity of information. With the beginning of the Second World War, formal alignment of classification systems were done. Alan Turing was the one who successfully decrypted the Enigma machine, which was used by the Germans to encrypt warfare data. Information security programs are built around three objectives, commonly known as CIA: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality means information is not disclosed to unauthorized individuals, entities, or processes. For example, if we say I have a password for my Gmail account, but someone saw while I was doing a login into Gmail, In that case, my password had been compromised and confidentiality had been breached. Integrity means maintaining accuracy and completeness of data. This means data cannot be edited in an unauthorized way. For example, if an employee leaves an organization, then in that case, data for that employee in all departments like accounts should be updated to reflect the status to job left, so that data is complete and accurate. And in addition to this, only authorized persons should be allowed to edit employee data. Availability. This means information must be available when needed. For example, if one needs to access information of a particular employee to check whether the employee has outstanding number of leaves, in that case, it requires collaboration from different organizational teams like network operations, development operations, incident response, and policy or change management. Denial of service attacks is one of the factors that can hamper the availability of information. Apart from this, there is one more principle that governs information security programs. This is non-repudiation. Non-repudiation means one party cannot deny receiving a message or a transaction, nor can the other party deny sending a message or a transaction. For example, in cryptography, it is enough to show that a message matches the digital signature signed with the sender's private key. That sender sent the message, and nobody else could have altered it in transit. Data integrity and authenticity are prerequisites for non-repudiation. Authenticity means verifying that users are who they say they are, and that each input arriving at the destination is from a trusted source. This principle, if followed, guarantees the valid and genuine message received from a trusted source through a valid transmission. For example, if, take the above example, senders sends the message along with the digital signature which was generating using the hash value of the message and private key. Now at the receiver side, this digital signature is decrypted using the public key, generating a hash value, and the message is again hashed to generate the hash value. If the two values match, then it is known as a valid transmission, with the authentic, or we say genuine message, received at the recipient side. Accountability means that it should be possible to trace actions of an entity uniquely to that entity. For example, as we discussed in Integrity section, not every employee should be allowed to do changes in another employee's data. For this, there is a separate department in an organization that is responsible for making such changes, and when they receive a request for a change, then that letter must be signed by a higher authority, for example, director of college, or the person that is allotted the change will be able to make that change after verifying his biometrics. Thus, timestamp with the user doing changes, details get recorded. Thus, we can say if a change goes like this, then it will be possible to trace the actions uniquely to an entity. At the core of information security is information assurance, which means the act of maintaining CIA of information, ensuring that information is not compromised in any way when critical issues arise. These issues are not limited to natural disasters, computer server malfunctions, etc. Thus, the field of information security has grown and evolved significantly in recent years. It offers many areas for specialization, including securing networks and allied infrastructure, securing applications and databases, security testing, information systems auditing, business continuity planning, etc. Need of information security. Information security means to consider available countermeasures or controls stimulated through uncovered vulnerabilities and identify any areas where more work is needed. The purpose of data security management is to ensure business continuity and scale back any risk of business injury by preventing and minimizing the impact of security incidents. The need for information security. 1. Protecting the functionality of the organization. The decision-maker in organizations must set policy and operate their organization in compliance with a complex, shifting legislation, efficient, and capable applications. 2. Enabling the safe operation of applications. The organization is under immense pressure to acquire and operate integrated, efficient, and capable applications. The modern organization needs to create an environment that safeguards applications using the organization's IT systems, particularly those applications that serve as important elements of the infrastructure of the organization. 3. Protecting the data that the organization collects and uses. Data in the organization can be in two forms that are either in rest or in motion. The motion of data signifies that data is currently being used or processed by the system. The value of the data motivates the attackers to steal or corrupt the data. Protection from this is essential for the integrity and the values of the organization's data. Information security ensures the protection of both data in motion as well as data in rest. 4. Safeguarding technology assets in organizations. The organization must add intrastate services based on the size and scope of the organization. Organizational growth could lead to the need for public key infrastructure, PKI, an integrated system of the software, encryption methodologies. The information security mechanism used by large organizations is complex to a small organization. The small organization generally prefers symmetric key encryption of data. When talking to a provider, ask lots of pointed questions. Reliable information security professionals will be happy to answer them. Are they experts on security systems who are proficient in solutions, services, and processes? What examples can they give of successful outcomes? What customer problems have they solved? Can they share success stories about projects they've managed? Do they understand your business's information security policies, and do they show interest in learning your unique requirements? Do they constantly update their knowledge to keep up with the latest trends in cybercrime and malware? Do they have an eye for detail that lets them solve unusual problems? Can they explain technical IT security issues in terms which laymen understand? Can they provide analogies that help non-technical people to understand information security management? Are they up to date on the latest technical issues regarding threats, attacks, and security measures? Do they take a collaborative approach, working with you to achieve your business goals? What assurances of trust do they offer? What measures do they take to protect your confidential information? Can they provide references to help you gauge their performance and effectiveness at system and data protection? The importance of information security. Every organization needs protection against cyber attacks and security threats. Cybercrime and malware are constant threats to anyone with an internet presence, and data breaches are time-consuming and expensive. The services of a trustworthy information security provider will mitigate digital information risks and keep systems running without disruption. Not all organizations require the same kind or degree of data protection. You have to choose a provider that you can work with from day to day, one that will meet your business. Difference between cybersecurity and information security. The terms cybersecurity and information security are often used interchangeably, as they both are responsible for security and protecting the computer system from threats and information breaches, and often cybersecurity and information security are so closely linked that they may seem synonymous, and unfortunately, they are used synonymously. If we talk about data security, it's all about securing the data from malicious users and threats. Now, another question is, what is the difference between data and information? So, one important point is that not every data can be an information. Data can be informed if it is interpreted in a context and given meaning. For example, 100798 is data, and if we know that it's the date of birth of a person, then it is information because it has some meaning. So information means data, which has some meaning. Here's a comparison between cybersecurity and information security. Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting the data from outside the resource on the Internet. Information security is all about protecting information from unauthorized user access and data modification or removal in order to provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Cybersecurity is about the ability to protect the use of cyberspace from cyber attacks. Information security deals with protection of data from any form of threat. Cybersecurity is to protect anything in the cyber realm. Information security is for information, irrespective of the realm. Cybersecurity deals with danger against cyberspace. Information security deals with the protection of data from any form of threat. Cybersecurity strikes against cybercrimes, cyber frauds, and law enforcement. Information security strives against unauthorized access, disclosure, modification, and disruption. On the other hand, cybersecurity professionals with cybersecurity deals with advanced persistent threats. Information security professionals is the foundation of data security, and security professionals associated with it prioritize resources first before dealing with threats. Cybersecurity deals with threats that may or may not exist in the cyber realm, such as protecting your social media account, personal information, etc. Information security deals with information assets and integrity, confidentiality, and availability. Information classification in information security. In today's world, information is one of the essential parts of our life. In this, we will discuss the categorization of information based on different organizations and different parameters. Information in an organization should be categorized and must be kept confidential, and that's why information security comes into the picture, and it plays a vital role for any organization. The main reason for classifying information is that not all data or information has the same level of importance or is of the same level of relevance or criticality to the organization. Some data are more valuable to people who make strategic decisions, such as senior management, because they aid them in making long-run or short-range business direction decisions. Some data, such as trade secrets or formulas used by scientific and/or research organizations, and new product information, such as the use by marketing staff and sales force, are so valuable that their loss could create significant problems for the enterprise in the market. Thus, it is obvious that information is used to prevent unauthorized disclosure and the resultant failure of confidentiality. Schemes for information classifications as follows. 1. Government organization. 2. Private organizations. Levels in government organization for information classification. 1. Unclassified. Information that is neither sensitive nor classified. The public release of this information does not violate confidentiality. 2. Sensitive but unclassified. Information that has been designated as a major secret but may not create serious damage if disclosed. 3. Confidential. The unauthorized disclosure of confidential information could cause some damage to the country's national security. 4. Secret. The unauthorized disclosure of this information could cause serious damage to the country's national security. 5. Top secret. This is the highest level of information classification. Any unauthorized disclosure of top secret information will cause grave damage to the country's national security. Levels in private organizations for information classification. 1. Public. Information that is like unclassified information. However, if it is disclosed, it is not expected to seriously impact the company. 2. Sensitive. Information that required a higher level of classification than normal data. This information is protected from a loss of confidentiality as well as from loss of integrity owing to an unauthorized alteration. 3. Private. Typically, this is the information that is considered of a personal nature and is intended for company use only. Its disclosure could adversely affect the company or its employees. Salary levels and medical information could be considered as examples of private information. Criteria for information classification. 1. Value. It is the most used criteria for classifying data in the private sector. If the information is valuable to an organization, it needs to be classified. 2. Age. The classification of the information may be lowered if the information value decreases over time. 3. Useful life. Information will be more useful if it will be available to make the changes as per requirements, then it will be more useful. Data is valuable only if it accurately reflects the real world. Stale data does not have the same value if it becomes less accurate over time. 4. Personal association. If the information is personally associated with a specific individual or is addressed by a privacy law, then it may need to be classified. Difference between information security and network security. Information security. Information security is the measures taken to protect the information from unauthorized access and use. It provides confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It is the superset that contains cybersecurity and network security. It is necessary for any organization or firm that works on large scale. Network security. Network security is the measures taken by any enterprise or organization to secure its computer network and data using both hardware and software systems. This aims at securing the confidentiality and accessibility of the data and network. Every company or organization that handles large amounts of data has a degree of solutions against many cyber threats. Difference between information security and network security. Information security. It protects information from unauthorized user access and data modification. Network security protects the data flowing over the network. Information security is a superset of cybersecurity and network security. Network security is a subset of cybersecurity. Information security is for information, irrespective of the realm. Network security. It protects anything in the network realm. Information security deals with the protection of data from any form of threat. Network security deals with the protection from denial-of-service attacks. Information security strikes against unauthorized access, disclosure, modification, and disruption. Network security strikes against Trojans. Information security provides confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Network security provides security over network only. Information security ensures to protect transit and stationary data both. Network security ensures to protect the transit data only. Information security deals with information assets and integrity, confidentiality, and availability. Network security secures the data traveling across the network by terminals. Why is information security needed within an organization? Company core business integrity and client protections are critical, and the value and importance of information security in organizations make this a priority. All organizations need protection against cyber attacks and security threats, and investing in those protections is important. Data breaches are time-consuming, expensive, and bad for business. With strong InfoSec, a company reduces their risk of internal and external attacks on information technology systems. They also protect sensitive data, protect systems from cyber attacks, ensure business continuity, and provide all stakeholders peace of mind by keeping confidential information safe from security threats. What are the top information security threats? Emphasizing the importance of information security in organizations and acting on it are key to countering the main threats to data security. The top 6 concerns in InfoSec are social engineering, third-party exposure, patch management, ransomware, malware, and overall data vulnerabilities. 1. Social engineering. Social attacks take place when criminals manipulate targets into taking certain actions, such as skipping security measures or disclosing information, in order to gain access to confidential information. Phishing attempts are one common example. 2. Third-party exposure. Companies must be confident that any third-party vendors are handling information securely and sensitively. If there are data breaches with a vendor, the main company that owns the consumer relationship is still considered responsible. The importance of information security in organizations must be held at the same high priority level for vendors as it is within your own company. 3. Patch management. Cyber attacks will exploit any weakness. Patch management is one area that companies need to stay on top of, and make sure to always update to the most recent software releases to reduce vulnerabilities. 4. Ransomware. Ransomware attacks infect a network and hold data hostage until a ransom is paid. There can be financial damages and reputational damages from the ransom, as well as lost productivity and data loss from the attack itself. 5. Malware. Malware is software that has malicious code for the purpose of causing damage to a company's software, their data and information, and their ability to do business. 6. Overall data vulnerabilities. Lastly, cyber attacks can take place through any weakness in the system. Some risk factors include outdated equipment, unprotected networks, and human error through lack of employee training. Another area of risk can be a lax company device policy, such as letting employees use personal devices for work and may not be properly protected. You can evaluate your own company's level of possible exposure via a thoughtful risk assessment plan. Before we go deeper into understanding what the security threats are and how we can defend ourselves against them, let's view some statistics in the next section. CyberSecurity Awareness Trends to Watch For in 2022. 2021 saw the widespread digital transformation and productivity enhancements across many sectors and regions worldwide, with remote and remote hybrid workplace dynamics leading to new cultural and technological norms. It's also meant more opportunity for increasingly complex cyber threats to impact a record number of organizations. As cybersecurity trends and the resulting threats evolve, awareness training efforts must shift to accommodate those changes. These alterations will ensure employees are mindful of current warning signs that their information may be vulnerable and how to go about avoiding cyber attacks if they become a target. Here's a rundown of some major cybersecurity awareness trends every CISO and security leader should keep an eye on in 2022. 1. Ransomware and malware will take center stage. As rises to prominence go, no cyber threat category had one more meteoric in 2021 than ransomware. According to the U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, roughly $2.2 million were handed over to cybercriminals in ransomware transactions every day. And that figure's not expected to decrease this decade either. Damage-related costs could surpass $265 billion by 2031. These statistics should prove, once and for all, that technological safeguards alone can't keep ransomware and other malware attacks from compromising an organization's sensitive data. Thorough, informative training courses and real-world phishing simulations, security awareness training programs must prioritize these threats as part of their education menu in the coming year. 2. Mobile malware attacks will target more individuals. One of the byproducts of the global shift toward remote and remote hybrid workplace models was an uptick in the number of malware attacks on mobile devices instead of desktop computers or laptops. The importance of smartphones and tablets in everyone's lives has only grown since the beginning of 2020, too. From the explosion of mobile wallet usage to the ubiquity of QR code scanning, over a third of individuals living in the UK and Europe scan one at least once a week. All employees should be on high alert. Security awareness training content must include guidance on mobile-centric scams as well. 3. Cryptocurrency will be an even bigger part of cyber attacks. Ransomware was a popular method for cybercriminals to extract funds from victimized organizations in 2021. Because of this, cryptocurrency payouts skyrocketed. The operators of the Colonial Pipeline were arguably the most public scapegoats of one such scheme, paying hackers a crypto ransom of $4.4 million. Worse still, only a part of the total amount was later recovered by the Department of Justice. But cryptocurrency is becoming synonymous with cyber attacks in more ways than one. New types of attacks, such as this Discord malware, directly targeted crypto and NFT enthusiasts with a sophisticated payload that bypassed traditional antivirus architecture. The solution, at least in part, ensure that all end users understand the warning signs of a malware threat, as well as what they should do when faced with possible malicious message or link directing them to the file. 4. Phishing and social engineering attacks will only get more sophisticated. Let's stay about the initial message of any cyber attack for a moment. These typically leverage well-known phishing and social engineering techniques to trick victims into compromising sensitive information. However, phishing emails are becoming even more challenging to detect, even for employees familiar with the methods hackers may employ. Many phishing messages now seem to direct recipients to links marked as HTTPS, which engenders a false sense of trust in the content. The spoofing considerations, such as well-known brand logos and branding, can make the red flags harder to spot. The proof is, in part, in this year's Gone Phishing tournament results, where 1 in every 5 participating end users clicked on the phishing email link. The takeaway is simple. Your security awareness training program must include real-world phishing simulation templates that reflect examples of emails and landing pages employees may encounter out in the wild. Otherwise, they may be unable to differentiate the safe from the harmful. 5. Data breaches will cost organizations even more. Finally, there's the subject that ties cybersecurity to long-term business growth, the potential cost of navigating a data breach. Though this amount will vary based on an organization's industry, size, and operating regions, one constant transcends these differentiators, which is that the dollar figure associated with this possibility has gone up considerably in the last year. Take the example of CNA Financial Corp., one of the largest insurance companies in the U.S. In late March, they paid $40 million to cybercriminals following a ransomware attack that seized control of their network. Despite the company's alleged adherence to all laws, regulations, and published guidance, this amount was touted by experts as an unprecedented high. With this new public disclosure, bet on cybercriminals using this amount as a yardstick by which ransoms will be measured in 2022. Cyber attacks, different types of attacks and how to recognize them. Phishing attacks and spam. What is phishing? Definition: phishing is when attackers send malicious emails designed to trick people into falling for a scam. The intent is often to get users to reveal financial information, system credentials, or other sensitive data. Phishing is an example of social engineering, a collection of techniques that scam artists use to manipulate human psychology. Social engineering techniques include forgery, misdirection, and lying, all of which can play a part in phishing attacks. On a basic level, phishing emails use social engineering to encourage users to act without thinking things through. History of phishing. The term phishing came about in the mid-1990s when hackers began using fraudulent emails to phish for information from unsuspecting users. Since these early hackers were often referred to as freaks with a PH, the term became known as phishing with a PH. Phishing emails try to lure people in and get them to take the bait, and once they are hooked, both the user and the organization are in trouble. Like many common threats, the history of phishing starts in the 1990s. When AOL was a popular content system with Internet access, attackers used phishing and instant messaging to masquerade as AOL employees to trick users into divulging their credentials to hijack accounts. In the 2000s, attackers turned to bank accounts. Phishing emails were used to trick users into divulging their bank account credentials. The emails contained a link to a malicious site that looked like the official banking site, but the domain was a similar variation of the official domain name. For example, paypie.com instead of paypal.com, the I looking like PayPal's actual L. Later, attackers went for other accounts such as eBay and Google to use the hijacked credentials to steal money, commit fraud, or spam other users. Why is phishing a problem? Cybercriminals use phishing emails because it's easy, cheap, and effective. Email addresses are easy to obtain, and emails are virtually free to send. With little effort and little cost, attackers can quickly gain access to valuable data. Those who fall for phishing scams may end up with malware infections, including ransomware, identity theft, and data loss. The data that cybercriminals go after includes personally identifiable information, PII, like financial account data, credit card numbers, and tax and medical records, as well as sensitive business data such as customer names and contact information, proprietary product secrets, and confidential communications. Cybercriminals also use phishing attacks to gain direct access to email, social media, and other accounts, or to obtain permissions to modify and compromise connected systems like point-of-sale terminals and order processing systems. Many of the biggest data breaches, like the headline-grabbing 2013 Target breach, start with a phishing email. Using a seemingly innocent email, cybercriminals can gain a small foothold and build on it. What does a phishing email look like? Attackers prey on fear and a sense of urgency. It's common for attackers to tell users that their account is restricted or will be suspended if the targeted user does not respond to the email. Fear gets targeted users to ignore common warning signs and forget their phishing education. Even administrators and security experts fall for phishing occasionally. Usually, a phishing email is sent to as many people as possible, so the greeting is generic. In the above message, the user's name is not mentioned, and the sense of urgency is meant to use fear to trick users into opening the attachment. The attachment could be a web page, a shell script, for example, PowerShell, or a Microsoft Office document with a malicious macro. The macro and scripts can be used to download malware or trick users into divulging their account credentials. Attackers register domains that look like the official one, or they will occasionally use generic providers such as Gmail. Spoofed senders are possible with email protocols, but most recipient servers use email security that detects spoofed email headers. When users receive mail, the messages might use the official company logo, but the sender address would not include the official company domain. Sender address is just one warning sign, but it should not be the only thing used to determine legitimacy of a message. Primary mechanisms used in phishing emails. Cybercriminals use three primary mechanisms in phishing emails to steal information: malicious web links, malicious attachments, and fraudulent data entry forms. Malicious web links. Links, also known as URLs, are common in emails in general and in phishing emails. Malicious links will take users to imposter websites or to sites infected with malicious software, also known as malware. Malicious links can be disguised to look like trusted links and are embedded in logos and other images in an email. Here's an example of an email received by users at Cornell University, an American college. It is a simple message that showed Help Desk as the name of the sender, though the email did not originate from the university's help desk, but rather from the @connect.ust.hk domain. According to Cornell's I-Team, the link embedded in the email took clickers to a page that looked like the Office 365 login page. This phishing email attempted to steal user credentials. Malicious attachments. These look like legitimate file attachments, but are infected with malware that can compromise computers and the files on them. In the case of ransomware, a type of malware, all the files on a PC could become locked and inaccessible. Or a keystroke logger could be installed to track everything a user types, including passwords. It's also important to realize that ransomware and malware infections can spread from one PC to other network devices, such as external hard drives, servers, and even cloud systems. Here is an example of phishing email text shared by international shipper FedEx on its website. This email encouraged recipients to print out a copy of the attached postal receipt and take it to a FedEx location to get a parcel that could not be delivered. Unfortunately, the attachment contained a virus that infected recipients' computers. Variations of these types of shipping scams are particularly common during the Christmas shopping season, though they are seen year-round. Fraudulent data entry forms. These emails prompt users to fill in sensitive information, such as user IDs, passwords, credit card data, and phone numbers. Once users submit that information, it can be used by cybercriminals for their personal gain. Here's an example of a fake landing page shared on the gov.uk website. After clicking on a link in the phishing email, users are routed to this fraudulent page that appears to be part of the HMRC tax collection agency. Users are told they are eligible for a refund, but must complete the form. This type of personal information can be used by cybercriminals for several fraudulent activities, including identity theft. Common phishing subject lines. The subject on an email determines if a user will open the message. In a phishing attack, a subject line will play on user fears and a sense of urgency. It's common for attackers to use messages involving problems with accounts, shipments, bank details, and financial transactions. Shipping messages are common during the holidays because most people are expecting a delivery. If a user does not notice that the domain in the sender address is not legitimate, the user could be tricked into clicking the link and divulging sensitive data. Types of phishing attacks. Phishing has evolved into more than simple credential and data theft. The way an attacker lays out a campaign depends on the type of phishing. Types of phishing include spear phishing. These email messages are sent to specific people within an organization, usually high-privilege account holders. Link manipulation. Messages contain a link to a malicious site that looks like the official business. CEO fraud. These messages are sent mainly to financial people to trick them into believing that the CEO or other executive is asking them to transfer money. Content injection. An attacker who can inject malicious content into an official site will trick users into accessing the site to show them a malicious pop-up or redirect them to a phishing website. Malware. Users tricked into clicking a link or opening an attachment might download malware onto their device. Smishing. Using SMS messages, attackers trick users into accessing malicious sites from their smartphones. Vishing. Attackers use voice-changing software to leave a message telling targeted victims that they must call a number where they can be scammed. Evil twin Wi-Fi. Spoofing free Wi-Fi, attackers trick users into connecting to a malicious hotspot so that they can perform man-in-the-middle exploits. Real-world phishing examples. The way an attacker carries out a phishing campaign depends on their goals. For businesses, it's common for attackers to use fake invoices to trick the accounts payable department to send money. In this attack, the sender is not important. Many vendors use personal email accounts to do business. The button in this example opens a web page with a fraudulent Google authentication form. The page attempts to scam targeted victims into entering their Google credentials so that attackers can steal accounts. Another method attackers use is to pretend that they are internal technical support. The technical support email asks users to install a messaging system, an application with hidden malware, or run a script that will download ransomware. Users should be on the lookout for these types of emails and report them to administrators. What is a phishing kit? Because phishing is effective, attackers use phishing kits to simplify the setup. It's the back-end components of a phishing campaign. The kit comprises the web server, elements of the website, for example, images and layout of the official website, and storage used to collect user credentials. Another component is registered domains. Criminals register dozens of domains to use with phishing email messages to switch quickly when spam filters detect them as malicious. By having dozens of domains, criminals can change the domain in the phishing URL and resend messages to additional targets. A phishing kit is also designed to avoid detection. The back-end scripts will block large blocks of IP addresses belonging to security researchers and antivirus organizations such as McAfee, Google, Symantec, and Kaspersky, so that they cannot find phishing domains. Domains used in phishing will look like a legitimate, harmless site to security researchers, but it will display phishing content to a targeted user. Where it happens. It's important to recognize the consequences of falling for a phishing attack, either at home or at work. Here are just a few of the problems that can arise from falling for a phishing email. In your personal life, money stolen from bank accounts, fraudulent charges on credit cards, tax returns filed in a person's name, loans and mortgages opened in a person's name, lost access to photos, videos, files, and other important documents, fake social media posts made in a person's accounts. At work, loss of corporate funds, exposed personal information of customers and coworkers, outsider access to confidential communications, files, and systems. Files become locked and inaccessible. Damage to employer's reputation. Financial fines from compliance violations. Loss in company value. Reduced investor confidence. Interruption of revenue-impacting productivity. Phishing and remote working. The pandemic shifted the way most organizations and employees work. Remote work became the standard, so corporate devices and personal devices existed at the user's workplace. This change in the work environment gave attackers an advantage. Users don't have enterprise-level cybersecurity at home, so email security is less effective, giving attackers a higher chance of a successful phishing campaign. Because employees now work from home, it's more important for organizations to train them for phishing awareness. Impersonation of executives and official vendors increased after the pandemic. Since employees still need access to corporate systems, an attacker can target any at-home employee to gain remote access to the environment. Administrators were forced to quickly set up remote access, so cybersecurity of the environment was pushed aside to allow convenience. This forced urgency gave attackers vulnerabilities that could be exploited, and many of these vulnerabilities were human errors. Combined poor cybersecurity with users connecting with their own devices, and attackers had numerous advantages. Phishing increased across the globe. Google reported a 350% surge in phishing websites in the beginning of 2020 after pandemic lockdowns. Most targeted industries. The goal of most phishing is financial gain, so attackers mainly target specific industries. The target could be an entire organization or its individual users. The top targeted industries include online stores, e-commerce, social media, banks and other financial institutes, payment systems or merchant card processors, IT companies, telecommunication companies, and delivery companies. Most impersonated brands. To trick as many people as possible, attackers use well-known brands. Well-known brands will incite trust in recipients, which will increase the chance that the attack will be successful. Any common brand can be used in phishing, but a few common ones are Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Apple, LinkedIn, FedEx, and DHL. Phishing protection. Phishing protection is an important security measure companies can take to prevent phishing attacks on their employees and organization. Security awareness training and education around signs to look for when an email looks or feels suspicious helps to reduce successful compromises. However, since user behavior is not predictable, typically security solution-driven phishing detection is critical. Education expanded into real-world examples and exercises will help users identify phishing. It's common for organizations to work with experts to send simulated phishing emails to employees and track which ones open the email and click the link. These employees can be trained further so that they do not make the same mistake with future attacks. Some email gateway reputation-based solutions do have the ability to catch and classify phishing emails based on the known bad reputation of the embedded URLs. What gets missed by these solutions are often well-crafted phishing messages with URLs from compromised, legitimate websites that don't have a bad reputation at the time of delivery of email. The most effective systems identify suspicious emails based on anomaly ticks, which looks for unusual patterns in traffic to identify suspicious emails, then rewrites the embedded URL and maintains a constant watch on the URL for in-page exploits and downloads. These monitoring tools quarantine suspicious email messages so that administrators can research into ongoing phishing attacks. If a high number of phishing emails are detected, administrators can alert employees and reduce the chance of a successful targeted phishing campaign. The cybersecurity landscape continually evolves, especially in the world of phishing. It's critical for corporations to always communicate to employees and educate them on the latest phishing and social engineering techniques. Keeping employees aware of the latest threats reduces risk and generates a culture of cybersecurity within the organization. Learn more about email protection. Phishing statistics. Phishing poses a huge threat to individuals and businesses. The following phishing statistics offer some sense of the prevalence and seriousness of phishing attacks. 241,324 phishing attacks were reported in 2020, an estimated 110% increase from 2019's reported 114,702 incidents. 75% of U.S. survey respondents have fallen victim to a phishing. 96% of phishing attacks are delivered using email. $3.92 million is the average cost to an organization after becoming a victim of a phishing campaign. What to do if you've fallen victim? After you've sent your information to an attacker, it will likely be disclosed to other scammers. You will probably receive vishing and smishing messages, new phishing emails, and voice calls. Always stay on alert for suspicious messages asking for your information or financial details. The Federal Trade Commission has a website dedicated to identity theft to help you mitigate damages and monitor your credit score. If you clicked on a link or opened a suspicious attachment, your computer could have malware installed. To detect and remove the malware, make sure that your antivirus software is up to date and has the latest patches installed. How to protect ourselves from phishing attacks. How to mitigate phishing attacks. These are critically important and useful steps towards safeguarding yourself and your organization against cybercriminals. After employing the above, train staff to read all emails with a critical eye. 1. Never trust any source that requests sensitive information via email. 2. Is the email professionally written? Misspelling and grammatical errors are hints you're being phished. 3. Never trust a source that doesn't know your name and account information. If the greeting is generic, it's probably a scam. 4. Watch for overly urgent subject lines and language like verify your account. Emails saying your account has been compromised frequently tip off a phishing attack. 5. Does the email contain attachments? If it's an unsolicited approach with an attachment, it may well be a scam. 6. Is the email from a legitimate domain? If the @domain.com part of the email doesn't exactly match the corporate website URL, it's likely a scam. 7. Make sure the site is secure. Does the URL begin with HTTPS? When you mouse over the link, is there a closed lock icon near the address bar? 8. Is your browser up to date? Companies release patches for newly detected malware all the time, so let their developers do the hard work for you. 9. Install an anti-phishing toolbar or plugin on your browser. 10. Does the email's message contain a shortened URL? Hover over it, but don't click. Check your status bar. Does it show a legitimate address? If not, it's a scam. 11. Instead of clicking on a suspicious link, type the institution's root URL, the https://abc.com part, into the browser to access the website. 12. Stay informed. When you Google how to avoid phishing, the search returns well over 15 million results, so it isn't difficult to stay abreast of the latest news and prevention best practices. Pay close attention when there's a story about a new tactic. 13. Retake your company's security and anti-phishing training. If you score less than 100%, study up and try again. 14. Instead of double-clicking a suspicious file, upload it to an online document reader like Google Drive, which will convert it into HTML or a PDF. This will allow you to review the document while preventing it from installing malware on your device. 15. Be wary of pop-ups, which are frequently employed in phishing attacks. Most used browsers allow you to block pop-ups by default. 16. Trust your gut. Does the email feel different or off? If it purports to be from someone you know, is its content inconsistent with the tone and vocabulary you're used to from that source? 17. When in doubt, do not click. Make "don't click" your default setting. Only click a link once you're sure it's safe. 18. Report potential phishing emails to IT, or, if they're allegedly from someone you know, contact them to ask if they sent it. Hackers are clever and are always innovating new ways to breach cybersecurity defenses, so no single tactic is likely to afford 100% protection. But organizations can do a lot from a policy, procedures, and training perspective to be more aware of phishing and how it works. Implement appropriate technical measures. Use robust cybersecurity practices to prevent as many phishing attacks as possible from getting through your defenses, and ensure that, if they are successful, they don't get much further. Build a positive security culture. Recognize that social engineering is successful because its perpetrators are good at manipulation. Don't punish staff for falling victim, but encourage them to report incidents. If there is a culture of blame, your employees will not admit to what is perceived as a mistake, which will put your organization at far greater risk. Learn the psychological triggers. All social engineering attacks exploit human psychology to get past victims' natural wariness, such as creating a false sense of urgency and heightened emotion to confuse their victims, exploiting the human propensity for reciprocation by creating a sense of indebtedness, or relying on conditioned responses to authority by seeming to issue orders from senior figures. Train your staff. Any member of staff might succumb to a phishing attack, so all employees need to be aware of the threat they face. Regular staff awareness training will help everyone in the organization understand the signs of a phishing attack and its potential consequences. They will then be able to report potential phishing emails according to company policy. Test the effectiveness of the training. Simulated phishing attacks will help you determine the effectiveness of the staff awareness training and which employees might need further education. Anti-phishing training suite. Training employees to detect phishing has shown to be a critical component in phishing awareness and education to ensure that your organization does not become the next victim. It only takes one employee to fall for a phishing campaign for it to become the next reported data breach. Reporting and analytics tell administrators where the organization can improve by discovering which phishing attacks trick employees. Simulations that include links tie into reporting by tracking who clicks on a malicious link, which employees enter their credentials on a malicious site, and any email messages that automatically trigger spam filters. Results can be used to configure spam filters and reinforce training and education across the organization. Other types of phishing attacks. Spear phishing. What is spear phishing? Spear phishing is an ultra-targeted phishing method whereby cybercriminals, or spear phishers, pose as a trusted source to convince victims to divulge confidential data, personal information, or other sensitive details. The cybercriminal will then use this information for malicious purposes, including identity theft or data breaches. Spear phishers often prey on their victims via targeted emails, social media, direct messaging apps, and other online platforms. And the strength of these cyber attacks is that they're tailor-made for victims and grounded in quality over quantity. That's because spear phishers do a great deal of reconnaissance, meaning research or homework, to be able to pull off a disguise of a trustworthy source. And that's one of the biggest differences between traditional phishing and spear phishing. Spear phishing versus phishing. Spear phishing is different from phishing in that it's a cyber attack toward a specific individual or organization, whereas phishing is a more generic, automated cyber attack that's attempted in one sweep of a large group. You might think of phishing as casting a wide net over a school of fish, whereas spear phishing is using a spear to catch one single fish. Phishing emails might be sent to hundreds of recipients simultaneously, with little customization. Spear phishers, however, will pose as a friend, boss, family member, or enterprise to gain your trust and fool you into giving them your information. These emails are well-researched and personal, making it harder to distinguish between what is real and what is fake. Ultimately, the intent of phishing and spear phishing is the same: acquire confidential data or sensitive information for malicious purposes. Still, victims, much like consumers, can be more susceptible to a customized experience, which in this instance is spear phishing. How spear phishing works. 3 examples. Spear phishing happens and is successful through reconnaissance, meaning cybercriminals studying up on victims to pull off a trustworthy identity, such as friend, boss, coworker, or family member. In fact, hacktivists and government-sponsored hackers are often identified as being behind spear phishing attacks. So, how do spear phishing attacks work? They can be summed up into a few steps. 1. The spear phisher identifies a piece of data they want, whether that's personally identifiable information like a social security number, or payment methods, or usernames or passwords. 2. The spear phisher identifies who has the piece of data by conducting research on an individual or organization, scoping out public profiles on social media or company websites. 3. The spear phisher also researches the cybersecurity protections their victim has in place, including antivirus software and any holes they can exploit. 4. The spear phisher creates an email and maybe even a domain name resembling the source they're posing as, and will craft a personal message to their victim. The message oftentimes has an urgent request and is sent as an email, via social media, a phone call, that's vishing, or text message, smishing. 5. The spear phisher convinces their victim to divulge the piece of data they asked for and use it to commit a fraudulent act. Of course, spear phishing techniques can differ. Here are just a few spear phishing examples to consider. What is trap phishing? Phishing has many forms, but one effective way to trick people into falling for fraud is to pretend to be a sender from a legitimate organization. A phishing trap lures users into a malicious website, using familiar business references and using the design from a site that has the same logo, designs, and interface as a bank, e-commerce, or other popular brand that a targeted user would recognize. This is also known as a watering hole attack. What is barrel phishing? To avoid filters, an attacker might send an initial benign-looking email to establish trust first, and then send a second email with a link or request for sensitive information. Barrel phishing takes more effort from the attacker, but the effect can be more damaging as targeted users feel that they can trust the email sender. What is a Trojan horse, and what damage can it do? When the horse's belly opened at night, it was too late. The Greeks had finally succeeded in capturing the long-besieged city of Troy, bringing the Trojan War to an end. Thousands of years later, the myth of the Trojan horse still lives on, albeit today in an unflattering connotation. For what once stood for a brilliant trick and a masterful feat of engineering is nowadays regarded as a malicious digital pest whose sole aim is to wreak havoc on its victims' computers unnoticed. It does this by reading passwords, recording keystrokes, or opening the door for further malware that can even take the entire computer hostage. These actions can include deleting data, blocking data, modifying data, copying data, disrupting the performance of computers or computer networks. Unlike computer viruses and worms, Trojans are not able to self-replicate. Types of Trojan. Backdoor Trojans. They are one of the simplest but potentially most dangerous types of Trojan. This is because they can either load all sorts of malware onto your system in their role as a gateway, or at least ensure that your computer is vulnerable to attack. A backdoor is often used to set up botnets. Without your knowledge, your computer becomes part of a zombie network that is used for attacks. Furthermore, backdoors can allow code and command to be executed on your device or monitor your web traffic. Exploit. Exploits are programs that contain data or code that take advantage of a vulnerability within an application on your computer. Rootkit. Rootkits are designed to conceal certain objects or activities in your system. Often, their main purpose is to prevent malicious programs being detected in order to extend the period in which the programs can run on an infected computer. Dropper or downloader Trojans. One of the best-known dropper Trojans is the Emotet malware, which has now been rendered harmless, but which, in contrast to a backdoor Trojan, cannot execute any code on the PC itself. Instead, it brings other malware with it, for example, the banking Trojan TrickBot and the ransomware Ryuk. Droppers are therefore like downloader Trojans, the difference being that downloaders need a network resource to pull malware from the network. Droppers themselves already contain the other malicious components in the program package. Both types of Trojans can be remotely updated in secret by the programmers responsible, for example, so that virus scanners cannot detect them with new definitions. New functions can also be added in this way. Banking Trojans. Banking Trojans are among the most widespread Trojans. Given the increasing acceptance of online banking, as well as the carelessness of some users, this is no wonder. They are a promising method for attackers to get their hands on money quickly. Their goal is to obtain the access credentials to bank accounts. To do this, they use phishing techniques, for example by sending the alleged victims to a manipulated page where they are supposed to enter their access credentials. Accordingly, when using online banking, you should ensure that you use secure methods for verification, such as only the app of the respected bank, and never enter your access data on a web interface. DDoS Trojans. Distributed denial of service, or DDoS attacks, continue to haunt the web. In these attacks, a server or network is torpedoed with requests, usually by a botnet. In mid-June 2020, for example, Amazon fended off a record attack on its servers. For over 3 days, Amazon's web services were targeted with a data throughput of 2.3 terabytes per second. There must be an enormous botnet to achieve that kind of computing power. Botnets consist of zombie computers, so to speak. On the face of it, they are running normally, but they are also functioning silently as attackers. The reason for this is a Trojan with a backdoor component that slumbers unnoticed on the computer and, if necessary, is activated by its operator. If a botnet attack or a DDoS attack is successful, websites or even entire networks are no longer accessible. Fake antivirus Trojans. Fake antivirus Trojans are particularly insidious. Instead of protecting, they get every device into serious trouble. With alleged virus findings, they want to cause panic among unsuspecting users and persuade them to purchase effective protection by paying a fee. But instead of a helpful virus scanner, the user only gets more problems as their payment data is conveyed to the Trojan originator for further misuse. So if you suddenly get a virus warning in your browser when visiting a website, you should ignore this and only trust your system virus scanner. Trojan Game Thief. This type of program steals user account information from online gamers. Trojan IM, instant messaging. Trojan IM programs steal your login data and passwords for instant messaging programs such as ICQ, MSN Messenger, AOL Instant Messenger, Yahoo Pager, Skype, etc. One could argue that these messengers are barely in use nowadays. However, even new messenger services are not immune to Trojans. Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Telegram, or Signal could also become targets of Trojans. As recently as December 2020, a Windows Trojan was commandeered via a Telegram channel. Instant messaging should also be protected against dangerous phishing attacks. In January 2018, security researchers at Kaspersky discovered a Trojan called Skygo Free. The malware had extremely advanced functions and can, for example, connect to Wi-Fi networks on its own, even if the user has deactivated the function on their device. The Skygo Free Trojan can also monitor the popular messenger service WhatsApp. It reads messages and can also steal them. Trojan Ransom. This type of Trojan can modify data on your computer so that your computer doesn't run correctly, or you can no longer use the specific data. The criminal will only restore your computer's performance or unblock your data after you have paid them the ransom money that they demand. SMS Trojans. They may seem like a relic from another century, yet they are still active and pose a significant threat. SMS Trojans, such as the Android malware Fake Token, can work in different ways. Fake Token, for example, sends mass SMS messages to expensive international numbers and disguises itself in the system as a standard SMS app. The smartphone owner must pay the costs for this. Other SMS Trojans establish connections to expensive premium SMS services. Trojan Spy. Trojan spy programs can spy on how you're using your computer, for example, by tracking the data you enter via your keyboard, taking screenshots, or getting a list of running applications. Trojan Mail Finder. These programs can harvest email addresses from your computer. In addition, there are other types of Trojans: Trojan Arc Bomb, Trojan Clicker, Trojan Notifier, Trojan Proxy, and Trojan PSW. Trojans as a threat to all end devices. Trojans now not only target Windows computers, but also Mac computers and mobile devices. Malware often gets onto computers via infected attachments, manipulated text messages, or bogus websites. However, there are also Secret Service Trojans that can be installed on the target systems remotely without the user noticing and without any interaction on part of the targets. The Pegasus software from the Israeli manufacturer NSO, for example, is distributed via the mobile phone network. Pegasus includes a powerful arsenal of interception options. The device can be read completely, calls can be recorded, or the phone can be used as a bugging device. In Germany, too, police authorities use a state Trojan to monitor and track criminals. However, the malware, known in officialese as Source TKU software, may not be used for surveillance without a court order. Cybercriminals want to cause maximum damage with Trojans. If surveillance software is used by the state to track and punish criminal offenses, cybercriminals have exactly the opposite in mind. In the latter case, it is all about personal enrichment at the expense of their victims. In doing so, the criminals use different programs, sometimes even entire malware chains. How do they do it? One example may be a backdoor installed unnoticed on the computer via an infected email attachment. This gateway ensures that further malware is loaded onto the PC secretly and silently without being noticed. Another example is a keylogger to record keystrokes such as passwords or confidential content, a banking Trojan to steal financial data, or ransomware that encrypts the entire computer and only releases the hijacked data following payment of a significant amount of Bitcoin. Notorious in this context is the malware Emotet, which periodically makes its rounds and is described as the most destructive malware. Strictly speaking, the Trojan King is a bot network that uses spam emails and infected Word or Excel documents to find its victims. The BSI has set up an extra page with information on Emotet. In summary, Emotet is considered one of the most destructive and dangerous Trojans. It isn't yet known who is behind Emotet. The damage caused by Emotet runs into the millions. Companies are the main targets. Private users can still be affected if Emotet reads the stored email addresses from address books and adds them to its immense database. To contain the danger, in addition to having up-to-date software, macros should be deactivated in Word and Excel, and no attachments should be opened from emails from unknown senders. Piggybacking onto the end device. Trojans are not only found in email attachments, they can also piggyback on supposedly free programs. Once again, therefore, it is important not to use dubious sources for software downloads, such as codec packs or cracked programs, even if you might save a few euros. The damage that can be caused by Trojans often exceeds the value of the software if it had been purchased through regular channels. Incidentally, a Trojan should not be confused with a virus. Computer viruses reproduce independently, whereas a Trojan is merely a door opener, but with potentially devastating consequences. Therefore, here is a checklist on how to protect yourself and your devices from Trojans. 1. Think before you open attachments from emails. Check the sender and the text and consider whether the attachment really needs to be opened. 2. Always keep your mobile and stationary systems up to date. Install security updates on a regular basis, both for the operating system and the installed programs. 3. Do not allow macros in Word and Excel. 4. Do not click on links without thinking. There is also the possibility of a drive-by infection. This is an unnoticed installation of malware when visiting bogus websites, which ensure that the malware is downloaded onto the home system in the background. 5. Avoid downloading programs from unsafe sources. On mobile devices, avoid installing apps that are not offered in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. 6. Always display all file extensions. This will tell you if a supposed image, usually with a JPEG extension, is backed by an executable file with an exe extension. 7. As an additional security measure, use two-factor authentication via a mobile app and strong passwords, or ideally a password manager. 8. Always scan your system with a virus scanner with up-to-date definitions. 9. Make regular backups of your data, not only on cloud services, but also on a physical data carrier, such as a mobile SSD or HDD hard drive with a USB connection. Be careful when surfing the web. The Trojans mentioned here are the best-known types. What they all have in common is that they can only get onto the end device with the help of the user. However, if you surf the web carefully, do not open email attachments without thinking, and only obtain programs from secure sources, you should be able to avoid these threats. An up-to-date operating system and an always-on virus scanner will protect you even better from Trojans.